When a new year celebrates its second month, Daytona Beach, Florida springs to life. A new NASCAR season dawns. A fresh beginning for drivers and crews. Eager, fresh faces take to the speedway, hoping to find a little extra horsepower, a faster line to the checkered flag. Waiting for them are the old guns, experienced and plenty tough. All gunning for the same thing, a win at Daytona, a Busch championship come fall. But as practice yesterday showed, the slightest error at Daytona can damage that dream. Several crews worked overtime, repairing yesterday's damage, working against the clock. At Daytona, the clock is always ticking. But the dream remains. You yearn to walk with the champions. But this is Daytona Beach. There are no guarantees. We welcome you to qualifying day for the opening race of the NASCAR Busch Series. Tomorrow they'll roar off in the Orbitz 300, and today 48 cars will battle for 43 spots and starting positions. Cooler temperatures moving into North Florida here. But the Cup cars, which practiced earlier, well, they warmed up the track just a touch, folks. Welcome, everybody. I'm Brent Musberger. We have got a star-studded field for tomorrow's race. 26 drivers have already qualified for Sunday's 500. They will attempt to double here today, including Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Tony Stewart. And, folks, Stewart is smoking. He's won 2 races. Last Saturday night's Budweiser shootout. Yesterday, the first Gatorade duel. Now, while a lot of drivers got themselves a little trouble yesterday, Tony Stewart skated free. So we begin back in that garage area. Let's check in with Jamie Little. Jamie?
Well, Brent, there's many teams here today that are forced to qualify based on time, basically meaning they don't have a guaranteed spot in the field. One of those drivers is Casey Mears, making his debut with Hendrick Motorsports. Well, it hasn't been the easiest couple of days. Not only did he wreck his primary car on Wednesday, he wrecked his backup car yesterday, forcing the crew to borrow his teammate Kyle Busch's car. Now, it was a team effort overnight with his Cup guys and his Busch guys to get this car stripped from the inside out and prepared to try to qualify today. Dave.
Well, Jamie, Robbie Gordon came to the Daytona International Speedway in the Busch Series without a backup car. So when he was involved in a wreck yesterday, that presented an even larger problem than Casey Mears had. This car was wrecked from about here on up, destroyed, and they had to take it over to a friend's race shop right here in Daytona to take care of the damage. They worked all night. They got this car back to qualifying ready potential, they hope, because yesterday it was 3rd fastest on the speed charts. And they'll need all that speed today to make it into the field. Alan Bestwick?
To protect owners and sponsors who invest so much money in the sport, NASCAR grants the top 30 teams from last year's final standings an automatic spot in Saturday's race. Clint Bowyer was the 3rd place driver last year, but Richard Childress has a team that's running all of the races this season, and Bowyer is not. So Childress swapped the points to the other team. That means last year's 3rd place driver must be fast enough today to get a spot in Saturday's race. Speaking of fast, Mike Massaro is at the head of the field with a driver who could win the pole.
That's right, Alan. As far as Speed Weeks 2007 go, few organizations have had faster cars than Robert Yates Racing. On Sunday, they swept the front row for the Daytona 500, with rookie David Gilliland stealing the pole. Today, it's another young gun from the Robert Yates stables hoping to take home the hardware. Young Stephen Light was one of the fastest during practice on Thursday. Can he win the pole? Stay tuned. He's scheduled to roll off 42nd. Jerry?
Thank you very much, Mike. A lot of drama to unfold here over the next 3 hours of qualifying for the season opener, and I'm joined by my championship analysts, Rusty Wallace and Andy Petrie. And Rusty, what must a driver do to get the most out of his car for these 2 qualifying laps?
Jerry, number one, he needs to be really focused. He needs to leave pit road wide open on the throttle. Don't lift. Pull that baby back in 2nd gear, 3rd gear, 4th gear. Then run to the top of the racetrack and just throw away that first lap. That first lap was just used to get the car up to speed. The 2nd lap, put that baby right on the yellow line at both corners, make it a short way around the racetrack.
Andy, much cooler temperatures today than we have seen all week long, plus the wind is now gusting off of turn 2. How will it impact the cars in qualifying?
Well, cooler temperatures at other racetracks can be a big advantage. That helps the tires grip better when handling is a big key. But handling is not a big factor at Daytona. We got the restrictor plate on. It takes the handling completely out of it. And so these guys are just looking for straight line speed. The cooler temperatures could actually hurt the car because it could keep you from getting your temperatures up to an ideal position. And gusting winds, on the other hand, they can make or break your lap.
All right, the first car is rolling, and the scenario is such that these drivers will need to qualify on time and speed. You heard Alan Bestwick tell you the top 30 in owners' points from last year are guaranteed a starting spot at a past champion. There are the past champions who will have to race their way in, or in terms of speed today, or qualifying effort. So there will be 12 spots available, 31 guaranteed, 12 available, and 18 or 19 different drivers vying for those 12 spots. Qualifying underway, and the first car to go out is 32-year-old Brent Sherman out of St. Paul, Minnesota.
Right now, he's going to try to throw this first lap away, guys, like we talked earlier in the show. Take that car to the very top of the racetrack. That's a long way around. That's going to give him more time to get the car up to speed, get up the RPM, and then get that thing going. Now, Andy, it looks like it got a little wind down the back straightaway. It's probably going to bring the RPMs up.
Yeah, they're looking for, if they had an ideal condition, it would be for a big tailwind down the back stretch, because it could help these cars make more speed. The front stretch, you've got all these grandstands to block the wind, so it doesn't, the headwind on the front stretch doesn't hurt you as much as the tailwind on the back stretch can help you.
Yeah, I'd much rather have a tailwind on my get-go lap. It just seems like you get the car going faster down there, tighter corners off of turn 2 and entry into turn 3. Down this front straightaway now, you're going to see him come by the start-finish line, folks. He's got this thing pretty well up to speed right now. Now he's going to keep it on the yellow line, enter in turn 1, and try to make a short way around this racetrack.
Brent Sherman, who will run the entire NASCAR Busch Series schedule in 2007. Folks, he is a former U.S. Air Force fighter pilot. 3,000 hours of combat missions all over the world from 1995 to 98. Attended the Jim Russell Racing School, and actually in Grand Am competition finished 4th at Watkins Glen as a runner-up in the ARCA Series back in 2004 as well, and now coming on full-time in the NASCAR Busch Series, hoping to get a good qualifying spot. He's the first car out here at Daytona.
It's going to be interesting to see how much they pick up on their second laps. He ran a 49.94 on his first lap. Be interesting to see just how much these Busch cars pick up on their second lap by running that low line instead of the high line.
Second lap is considerably quicker, over 182 miles per hour, 49.438 seconds, and guys, he picked it up quite a bit.
That's about a half a second. That's pretty good. There'll be some cars that maybe pick up just a little more than that, but a half a second is usually kind of what they do from lap 1 to lap 2.
Well, Andy, it looks like he did a really good job getting that car up to speed the first lap, because usually I've seen 6 to 7/10 of a second from the warm-up lap to the actual qualifying lap. So Brent he did a good job getting that thing through the gears, getting the motor wound up, and evidently the team did a good job getting that oil heated up in the engine so the car ran at peak horsepower.
By the way, his crew chief, a very familiar name, Pearson. It is Ricky Pearson, the son of NASCAR legendary driver David Pearson. So I'm sure Ricky understands, he's been coming here a long time, what it takes to get it done here at this racetrack.
I think they'll be pretty happy with that lap. It's hard to tell until you get quite a few more cars to run and see where the track is. And I know when we watched the Cup qualifying the other day, it seemed like the track was a lot slower. I think it's going to be actually faster today than these guys have seen in practice. So that's not probably a bad lap for him.
Well, the air feels really good out there. I was out there earlier, Randy. In race car terms, engine terms, it's making big horsepower today. Everything's really nice out there today as far as temperatures to make these cars run good. You know, Jerry, these guys they all want to qualify good. They want to get these cars up front as much as you possibly can. But boy, when they drop the flag in this race, where you qualify doesn't seem like it means a lot. I watched cars last year in this race start like 32nd. I saw some cars lap 5 leading the race, so the draft is huge.
Yeah, 2 years ago, Tony Stewart won this race from 16th, won it from 14th a year ago, so they will come from the middle and from the back in a hurry. And how about an impressive week for this young driver? 30 years of age, Riverside, California, David Gilliland. And in case you just happen to wake up, Gilliland is the pole sitter, by the way, for the 49th running of the Daytona 500, driving for Robert Yates, his teammate Ricky Rudd on the front row. And Gilliland driving in this car, which is a NASCAR Busch Series ride. The car is owned by Ed Renzi and powered by those very powerful Yates-Roush engines.
boy, Yates Roush engine, that seems to be the ticket this week. And those things are making incredible horsepower. And I think everybody in the field, if they had a shot, hey, could I have this engine or they have that one? They'd pick the Yates engine.
This is the same young man that a year ago just shocked the Busch Series world by winning at Kentucky in only his 7th career start. He then was given a call while in victory lane at celebrating at Kentucky to get the ride for Robert Yates, and he won a pole at Talladega in only his 9th ever Cup Series start. And now comes to Daytona and puts it on the pole, and someone asked him, hey, you understand what it takes to compete against the best, because when he was in high school, he was on the golf team, and guess who his partner on the golf team was he had to play every day? Tiger Woods.
Get out of town. You got to be kidding me.
This kid understands when you have to compete. He's had to play against the best his entire life, and now he's standing tall here in NASCAR stock cars.
Well, he may have teed it up with Tiger Woods, but he hadn't lined up 3 deep with Dale Jr. and just Tony Stewart on each side of him.
Yeah, I'll tell you what.
At Daytona.
He's pretty good, though. He's got a little experience the other day, though, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did a great job in the
150. He did a great job in the 150, too. My first lap, a slow lap, a 50-20. I mean, I wasn't really impressed with that lap. I thought that had been much better than that one.
Yeah, I think Brent Sherman's 49.40 is going to be pretty good. I think that's going to be a pretty good lap. I'm sure it's not going to be a pole run. I know there's some cars that can run closer to a 49 flat that I've seen. So I believe that Brent Sherman's lap's going to hold up pretty good.
So if this holds true, I mean, what's he looking at? About a 49.70 if it was like Brent's lap at the second lap. Let's take a look, though, because we talked earlier about 6 or 7 tenths, which most guys were picking up last year. So let's see if a half a second holds true for him also.
All of these Fords are fast down here in the testing session they had earlier last month, and I expected all these Fords to be up front.
Flashing by, he is quicker, over 181 miles an hour, 49.631. That will not be quick enough to bump Brent Sherman off the front row or off the pole thus far in qualifying. Now, we told you that Robert Yates had a pretty impressive outing in NASCAR's Cup Series qualifying. There's a look at the 3 drivers Yates will have down here for Speed Weeks. Yes, Gilliland and Rudd are on the pole for the Daytona 500. And this young man driving the 90 car, I tell you, he will be a factor as well. But right now, Brent Sherman, the former Air Force fighter pilot, leading the way at Daytona. Great effort by Brent and the Big Lots boys at over 182 miles per hour.
ESPN's presentation of NASCAR Busch Series qualifying is brought to you by Verizon Wireless and Visa. Go on, live life, and remember that no matter what it takes, life takes Visa. Reed Sorensen right now is on his second lap. Let's go back to Jerry.
Thank you very much, Brent. Reed Sorensen, the 21-year-old, as of last week from Peachtree City, Georgia, has 74 NASCAR Busch Series starts and 2 wins, both coming at Nashville and Gateway in 2005. And you're going to be able to see the cars that have yet to come that are up to qualify in this look. You'll get a chance to look at Reed Sorensen with a big bright smile there, and the Chip Ganassi Racing efforts and the crew chief Brian Patty, and there are his numbers for the NASCAR Busch Series.
Now, that's a pretty good first lap right there, Andy. A 49.95 seconds lap. That really compares to Brent Sherman's lap of a 49.94. I mean, that puts them awful close. If this holds true, how much they're going to pick up on the second lap.
Yeah, the Dodgers weren't all that great in testing, so this is kind of a surprise these guys are be able to run that kind of first lap speed. So if he picks up a half a second, it'll put him really close to Brent Sherman's lap.
Tell you what, yesterday in that race, we saw, like, you know, Montoya ran so good in that Dodge. I mean, I was really surprised. Not really surprised, but just happy for him to see him run that good out there.
Yeah, Juan Pablo Montoya leading the first 22 laps in the Gatorade Duel. Second Gatorade Duel yesterday, and second time by for Sorensen. He puts it on the pole as far in qualifying at over 182.234 miles per hour, 49.387 seconds. And good second lap I was trying to calculate in my head. Good second lap for Reed Sorensen.
Yeah, you're doing the same thing I was. I was trying to see how much he picked up from the second lap.
I was trying to figure that. But, you know, it's interesting because, I mean, he as you said it in the open, Rusty, he pulled that car right down on the yellow line out of turn 4.
Oh, you got to keep it really low, Jerry. And we're pushing 0.6 of a second now. We're picking up from the first lap to the second lap. The last two guys have run about done that. So I think that's a pretty normal pickup, I'd say, Andy, that we could pretty well concentrate and feel comfortable with.
All right, let's check in down on pit road with Jamie.
Well, Doc, you know there's a lot of talk about all the rookies making their debut in this series. David Reagan, one of them. And David, you're in the legendary number 6 Roush Racing Ford. What has it been like for you so far to fill those shoes of Mark Martin?
Well, the Roush team on the Busch side is notorious for running well, just like on the Cup side. And we've got a great sponsor this year in Discount Tire coming to Roush for the first year. So, you know, everyone at Roush Fenway has been working real hard. We've got a great super speedway program. And, you know, what better way to start the 2000 season off with a win here at Daytona?
Well, you have some veteran teammates. What are they telling you about Daytona and running this particular Busch series here?
You know, the Busch racing is probably some of the best racing you'll see here at Daytona. We have the unique wicker bill on top of the car with our device here on the spoiler, and so it makes for some pretty cool racing, and you'll see all the Cup guys up in the front, and I think that's going to help me a lot on Sunday. You know, if I get out here on Saturday in the Busch race and kind of hang in there with some of those Cup guys, maybe I'll make a few friends that'll help me on Sunday.
All right, we'll see if you make it in the field. David Reagan.
Nice young man, second-generation driver. His dad, Ken Reagan, over 80 starts in NASCAR in his early career. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever, you are riding along number 1 with an onboard camera during qualifying, during live qualifying, and also for the first time ever, you are seeing high-definition onboard camera coverage. And you can actually count the fence poles as they go by with that high-definition picture.
Man, this is incredible. High definition. You get to pick everything out so clear. It's unreal. David, I tell you what, Rudeman now, this is a guy they've all been talking about because people have been telling me that this Toyota Busch engine is really a strong engine. Far more superior than the Cup engine they're running. So he's running the high side right now to warm this car up. Real rough over there. The tunnel comes out of the racetrack. The car's bouncing around a lot. So, folks, you can see he's just trying to throw this lap away. He's going to stay up, run it down the hill a little bit now, keep that momentum built up right past the start-finish line. Now take a look at this. He's going to go ahead and just take this car and just burn this lap right up at the top again now. Keep that car wound up, trying to get the RPM up all we possibly can. That's the goal right now. Get this motor screaming, get this thing flying around this racetrack. His goal right now, he's thinking about the start-finish line, coming back, because that's the mark. He wants to get perfect, so when he goes into turn 1, this car is going to be right dead on the bottom of the track.
Number 99, Aaron's Dream Machine, owned by Michael Waltrip. David Rudeman, 36 years of age, a second-generation, actually third-generation driver. His dad, Buzzy Rudeman, a legendary NASCAR modified driver, over 20 track titles in his career. David won a Busch pole at Memphis in 2003, trying to get another pole here at Daytona today.
All right, Jerry, here we go down to the bottom of the racetrack now. This is what he's focusing on. He's making this track pretty short. He's right in the middle of the track now. Now dead on the bottom into 1. Look how rough this track is. Look at that car jumping around. Bouncing, bouncing, bouncing. This track hasn't been paved in a long time. He's hugging that yellow line, trying to make it as short as he possibly can. Now holding the wheel very lightly so it can't bind up. He's coming down that straightaway so the RPMs don't drop off. Keeping that motor wound up. Staying real focused. He's looking at the entry of turn 3 now. Hug that yellow line down in the corner. Holding on, holding on. Look at that bump. Bang, bang, bang. Track's super rough here. Super rough. Needs paving bad. Let's get Francis to spend some money. What do you think? Okay, here we come. Now down to short shoot again. Focusing again. Left front wheel on the line. Let's see what kind of numbers this Toyota just put up.
All right, only Rusty would ask Brian France and Bill France to spend some money, but let's see what kind of numbers he did put up as he came by. David Rudeman, 182.567 miles per hour, and guess what? A Toyota is right now on the provisional pole at Daytona. Great effort for the Aaron's Dream Toyota for Michael Waltrip Racing. Rudeman at 182.567 miles per hour, and he bumps off this young man, Reed Sorensen, who was on the pole driving for Chip Ganassi. Well, some of the heavy hitters coming up when we come back. More live coverage of Busch pole qualifying in just a moment. Back Back at Daytona, 480-acre complex that is Daytona International Speedway, hosting now live NASCAR Busch Series qualifying as Regan Smith has been on the track for one lap. And flashing by this time for lap number 2. And you look on the bottom of your screen, you'll see the white line that is the 99. That is Rudemann's lap, who is currently the pole sitter. And of course, if you go above it in the green, you're faster. Below it, you are slower.
He's got the fastest first lap by almost 1/10 of a second. So we'd be looking for that line to start rising above if he can pick up the normal amount that these other guys have been able to. But it looks like he's slower. He may not have run that real high line like some of the other guys did. And that first lap sometimes is not as slow as the other guys. And you don't pick up as much on your timed lap. And it looks like he's slowing down even more. So
there, the crew watching there, Doug Randolph watching him as he go by, and that second lap is quicker, but not quite quick enough. Andy, you were exactly right. 182.271, and he just lost a little bit on turns 3 and 4, or else he might have had the pole.
I know Doug Randolph was pretty excited when he saw that first lap, and so he was kind of anxious when he came by just to see if they could get that lap, but they didn't. They just missed it, and they're still pretty happy with that lap. That's a pretty good lap.
You know, our telemetry clearly showed that enter turn 3 started really falling off, and he lost it. Turn 3 and 4 is where he lost the lap. His first lap was a good get-go, just like you said. Turn 1 or 2 was a great lap, and boy, it really fell apart in turn 3 and 4.
All right, let's check in down on pit road, I think, where Mike Massaro was caught up with Reed Sorensen.
And that's right, Doc. Reed Sorensen held the provisional pole for all but, I guess, about 3 minutes. Didn't hold up for the pole, but pretty solid run. Where do you think it's going to end up?
I don't even know where we ran, to be honest with you, but today is just to see where we started. I mean, the guys did a good job preparing a good car for us, and we made a lot of changes on the car to help it in the race, and we knew it was going to slow us down for today, but we made some adjustments that we thought could help us win the race, so that's what we're here to do. And I think today was just to come out here and get that bright yellow juicy fruit car out on the track so everybody could see it. But other than that, everybody's just kind of relaxed today, and we're going to wait till tomorrow, so we're ready to race.
There's been some pretty blustery conditions the last couple of days. I know it affects you a little bit during qualifying, but what do you expect come race time with these conditions?
I don't know. I mean, today was really windy, and obviously it changes qualifying a lot, but you know, the driver can't really do anything in qualifying other than hold it wide open, and you're along for the ride. So the race, we'll have to wait and see. The tires are pretty slick. I know the 150s, the cars are kind of all over the place, but it was a lot of fun, and the Busch cars really suck up really well with the wickers on the roof and the spoilers. So I think it'll be a really exciting race, and if it's a cool weather like this, the tires seem to stick a little bit better. So there'll be a lot of 3-wide racing, I think you'll see on Saturday.
From cool weather to a pretty cool driver, Jamie Little's with Mark Martin.
That's right, Mark Martin. You know, all this talk in the offseason about you leaving Roush Racing. Well, it wasn't that long, Mark. You're back here in the Busch Series with Roush. What is it like for you to come back so soon?
Well, that's crazy. You know, it's the first race back, but we're gonna try to get this Dish Network forward in here, our Fusion. I think we're in good shape, but you know, the first race and the first order of business is to get it in. And then after we get it in, we can go to work on trying to be competitive and win this thing. I think the car's okay, and I think we're okay on time, but there's so many cars trying to make it here that, we can't afford to have any mistakes or hiccups here.
Well, you know, we just talked to David Reagan before this, and I'm sure you had a chance to talk to him. What is it like watching somebody else out there in that number 6 car?
Well, I am so proud of David Reagan, and couldn't possibly have found a finer young man to take that spot. And obviously 19 years in that car, I have a lot of equity in that car, and to me and many of my fans, I'll always be number 6, and I really care about the heritage and the history of that car. And David Reagan will do an awesome job at carrying that forward.
All right, Mark Martin getting ready to qualify, guys, in the 06 car.
Thank you, Jamie. Mark will drive that car here and at Texas twice this year for Jack Roush Racing. And now here is another Ford that has been awfully strong. In fact, this is one of the Clarence Brewer cars of Jamie McMurray, the 30-year-old Joplin, Missouri driver, driving on board the Yardman Ford Fusion.
not a very good first lap. I know these guys were pretty hopeful they would have a shot at the pole. They were their teammate Ward Burton was the fastest yesterday in practice, and one of the days testing down here he was the fastest. So I know they were optimistic about having a good qualifying run, but some of these guys are really setting up for the race and kind of giving up qualifying a little bit, and this may be one of those cars.
Well, he was one of the fellows last year, qualified back in the 30th. Not even like lap 7, Andy. He was leading the race, so I mean, this guy knows how to get it done. I know they had that engine problem yesterday. I don't know if that's affected him in any way, but it could have.
You know, they thought they lost an engine when that big pileup happened yesterday as he comes by and completes his second lap in qualifying. And as you said, 181.752, not nearly what they would hoped it would be, as they come in 5th spot overall in qualifying out of 6 cars that have gone out to qualify. Got to be a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, that was a little disappointing for these guys. I know they had higher hopes than that, but hey, the race is tomorrow. Maybe they got their car set up for the race, and they'll be happy tomorrow.
But for you Jamie McMurray fans, what I started to say was they thought they had an engine problem yesterday when the cars backed up behind them. They had the big incident off of turn 2. It turns out they ran out of gas. They ran the car out of gas and just suddenly shut off coming off turn 2, unbeknownst to them. So and by the way, this car during the year will be shared by a driver, Greg Biffle, who's standing by with Mike.
David Ruderman currently on the provisional pole, Doc, and well, it looked like a pretty good lap. You think it'll hold up?
It was a good lap for the Aaron's Dream Machine. I don't know that it'll hold up. I mean, it's awful early, and it was a good lap we picked up from practice, but there's some other guys that were quite a bit quicker. Not quite a bit quicker, but there's one Toyota in particular, 32 Toyota was pretty quick. So he's definitely a guy that can do that. And there's a couple other cars out there. So well, either way, it was a good lap for us, and the car drove good in practice. So I'm pretty encouraged for the race.
I got to tell you, looking at the expression on your face, you look a lot more relaxed than you did a week ago on Sunday for Cup qualifying. How does the anxiety and the pressure compare here for you?
Well, I mean, this is just as important as a Cup side by all means. But the thing about it is we're just, we're guaranteed in from last year's point deal. So knowing that you come to the gates that you're guaranteed a spot on the show, that takes a lot of pressure off automatically. You still have to go out and perform for the race, but it's a lot easier knowing the Aaron's Dream Machine's going to be guaranteed in, and you don't have to do it. You don't have to get in the hard way.
And putting up a lap like that certainly takes the pressure off as well, Doc.
Thank you, Mike. Now, David Ruderman does resemble Greg Biffle a little bit, and he is at the front of the field like Greg normally is in qualifying. Sorry about that, as he is the current pole sitter, David Ruderman. What a great run in the Michael Waltrip Toyota. And I tell you, give a call to John Dysinger, the engine builder for that team. And Andy, he was your engine builder the last couple of years with the team you owned in Cup.
He was my last engine builder when I was in the last couple of years of our Cup Series efforts, but he went over to the TRD group, built engines for the Truck Series. Now they use that engine in the Busch Series. He's very involved in the development, and he's one guy I'm real proud of. All right, as you look at Eric McClure's car in the middle there, the hefty Chevrolet, the 99 at the bottom of your screen, that white line is his pole lap. That is Ruderman's pole lap, and as McClure comes out and takes the green flag right now, you'll begin to see a red line appear. You see he's down in the red, indicating he is slower than the 99.
He's quite a bit slower. It's white, way below the white line. As Jerry said, the white line is the lap of the pole sitter. Now he's really losing speed going through turn 1 and 2 right now. It should pick up a little bit and level out. Well, this is his first lap. He's running that big high line, and we're comparing to the fast lap of the pole sitter. So this is probably not a fair comparison. When we see the second lap, we'll see how close he can track.
Yeah, that is a throwaway lap. Remember, as Rusty told you, this first lap really sometimes doesn't even count. It looks like my stock portfolio, the way that red line is sort of dipping down to the bottom as far as you can see it. McClure, the 28-year-old driver. That is Steve Jenkins, by the way, the crew chief you see watching his driver come by. Eric, of course, the son of Cup Series owner Larry McClure, who has won 3 Daytona 500s.
It's all about pride. Qualifying is here at Daytona for these crew chiefs. They work all year long, and this is one of the places that they can look at their qualifying sheet and say, hey, look where my car qualified. It's all about speed and all about the crews here.
Well, Andy, this is a little bit better lap, but it's still way off from the pole sitter of David Ruderman right now. He's really losing speed as he's going through turn 1 and 2. It should level out in the back straightaway, I would think, a little bit. Line should get a little flatter, got a little tailwind down that back straightaway, but still significantly off. We're showing about 0.4 of a second at this point off the pole sitter David Ruderman.
He ran the slowest first lap speed, so he's probably not looking at being anywhere close to the pole. I know all he really needs to do here is make a lap that's good enough to get in the race.
Again, Eric McClure is off the chart, so he is much slower than 182.5 average speed for David Ruderman. Here again, they are one of the cars that are guaranteed a starting spot. Remember, the top 30 in owners' points are guaranteed a spot. This is one of those, Johnny Davis Racing for Eric McClure. So they know they will be in the race, but they will probably not start up toward the front. Eric McClure, you saw his times flash up. He is the slowest of the 7 cars that have gone out to qualify thus far at 179.978 miles per hour. They are clustered and ready. More cars to qualify when we come back.
We welcome you back to the Daytona Beach Speedway and this wonderful aerial coverage brought to you by Goodyear Tires, featuring triple tread technology. While I'm in here in our studio with Tim Brewer, I've got my very own crew chief to talk to. And Tim, I know you were out during the pre-qualifying inspection, and we hear the word impounded after they qualify. Does that mean they can't change anything after they qualify?
Well, you know, I spent quite a bit of time this morning with Joe Balish, and he's the competition director for the Busch Series. Hey, he's a pretty laid-back guy, but he's trying to cut the costs and contain a lot of extra expense to these cars in qualifying. So therefore, he's mandated the impound schedule. What you qualify, springs, shocks, engines, sway bars, what have you, you have to pretty much stay right around that area. But what he will let you change, he'll let you change a little bit of tape on the grill, and it's air pressures, track bar, a little bit of weight distribution as far as wedge, but no engines. I mean, you know, he's really contained this thing. He's really put a lot of thought into this process, and I think he's helping the sport with the NASCAR series, and hopefully one of these days they'll transfer it over there across the street.
Can they top off the fuel?
Yeah, they can put a little fuel in it, but you know, these cars here today, they're going to get about 6.5 miles to the gallon. So you know, he will let you have a 5-gallon container to top the fuel container off with, but there again, he'll let you check the water level after qualifying, because the cars with a taped up front end to try to get maximum air balance, you might push out just a little bit of water, and he's going to let you top off that water level. But it's just sensible adjustments that you can do without, you know, doing major changes to the car.
All right, Tim, thanks. Right now, let's go back to top now to Jerry.
You see, in the old days, the only time they impounded a car was if the car had a problem. That's why Tim Brewer is very familiar with the impound rule from being a crew chief and pushing the edge. And we take a look at the 59 car, the Matchlight car. That is the Wood Brothers JTG Racing efforts of rookie driver Marcus Ambrose, and he clocked in at 180.766 miles per hour, 7th quickest of the 8 cars that have gone out. And let's check in back in the inspection area.
But, Jerry, there's been so many headlines from Daytona Beach here this week about rules violations. The word everybody likes to use is cheating. The inspection process to qualify here today at Daytona is no different than it normally is at this racetrack, but it gets more scrutiny and more attention today. The officials very painstaking with all the different measurements they must take to these cars. These machines, you're looking at Eric Almirola's car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This car has been in this line for over 5 hours, just trying to get through all the 6 different stations and all the measurements that it must make before it's legal to go on the racetrack and make its qualifying lap. You see them checking the roof height now. The crew chief, Jason Ratcliffe's the fellow with the glasses over against the far wall. Over 5 hours, approaching 6, just to get the car out and run 2 laps. And by the way, you hope you're fast enough in those 2 laps that they'll want you to bring the car back through the tech line again.
Makes me glad I'm up here in the booth and not down there in the garage area as a crew chief. You have to stand there 5 hours to get your car through technical inspection. That's pretty stressful.
Well, the next driver to attempt to qualify, and how about this, 2007 NASCAR Busch Series rookie. Oh, by the way, he's a 3-time Indy Racing League champion and the reigning winner of the Indianapolis 500. Roger Penske's driver, Sam Hornish, a 27-year-old out of Defiance, Ohio. And Rusty Wallace, this is a first for Roger Penske because he has never before fielded a car in a restrictor plate Busch Series Super Speedway event,
let alone have the Indianapolis 500 champion driving it. So this is incredible that he's doing this. He really feels a lot. He really likes what Hornish is wanting to do. He wants to get in the NASCAR. He wants to run this car, and they're kind of starting what I call an ABC program with him. A little bit of ARC, a little bit of Busch Grand National, a little bit of Cup stuff later on. But I expect big things out of Hornish. I really do. It's going to take him a while to get going, but after he does, he should have a good run. This car, we know it's got a lot of horsepower under the hood. The Penske cars generally are really strong here at Daytona, so I know they got good motors. Let's just see how the aero program is. But still, qualifying doesn't mean much. It's all about, you know, how the car drafts, how it's going to run.
means a lot to Sam Hornish. He has to make it on speed. He doesn't have a provisional. He's not in the top 30. So he has to make it on his speed. I know these guys were kind of concerned about their speeds in practice. So they've done a few things with this car that may even hurt them in the race if they're able to make the race, just to make sure they get the car qualified.
I got to tell you, you're right about that one. I forgot he had a qualifying speed, Andy. That's right. So he's really got to lay a good number down. And the guys, well, they might run a little lighter lubricants, things like that.
Yeah, and he's done it. He's run the fastest first lap so far. So these guys are going to be pretty happy with this lap.
He was very, very quick in testing back here in January. In fact, on the first day of testing, he got in the car as a raw rookie here and was the fastest car on the racetrack. Again, a great effort in that team. Matt Gimbel, his chief mechanic. His car chief is Billy Spencer, a former crew member for A.J. Foyt many years up in IndyCar racing. And who is helping tutor him but no other than one Buddy Baker. How about having Buddy Baker as a tutor? You don't find a better tutor than that on the speedways. And he flashes by that time, and Sam Hornish will be fourth quickest overall. An impressive first outing for Sam at 182.168 miles per hour, 49.405. But Sam understands what it takes and how you got to push the button when you have to go. Flashback to last May. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway final lap out of turn 4, and Sam Hornish makes the pass and realizes his dream by winning his first ever Indianapolis 500. Celebrates with that ceremonial sip of milk in victory lane. Sam, the 2006 Indy 500 winner. And how about being joined by the 2000 Indy 500 champion, a 1999 kart champion? Yeah, he won the Monaco Grand Prix, talking about Juan Pablo Montoya. You talk about an impressive rookie class. Juan Pablo yet to qualify today. These guys are going to be here in Busch and possibly in Cup. Certainly Juan Pablo running in Cup here throughout the year. But a great qualifying effort for Sam Hornish here in his first attempt in a NASCAR Busch Series Super Speedway. As we check down in the pits, and Jamie has caught up with Matt Kenseth.
That's right, Matt Kenseth, 2003 Cup Series champion. He's out here in the Busch Series waiting in this long line to go out and qualify. Matt, 31st in happy hour. What can we expect to see from this qualifying run?
I don't really know. I think we'll be okay. I mean, we have to time our way in, and there's not a lot the drivers can do to help out much here at Daytona. But I think we'll be all right. You know, it's hard to tell. Yesterday it's an impound race, so most of the guys, everybody had points. It's pretty much just drafting the whole time, so you don't really know where your speed stack up until today. But I think we'll be okay.
All right, Matt Kenseth, we'll see what he can do, Doc.
All right, Matt, who's well known for his ability to be here. There's a look at Greg Biffle. A little bit different colors on the Biffle uniform. And by the way, in the first day of practice, we talked about possibly the 24 car of Casey Mears getting a bump from Biffle. We need to apologize to Greg because Mears told the crew, I didn't feel a bump. I just lost the car. So everyone assumed that it was Biffle that gave him the bump. And actually, according to Casey Mears, the car just sort of skirted out because Biffle had taken the air off.
Maybe Casey just let him off the hook. It sure looked to me like he bumped him.
Yeah, he did let him off the hook. He got a wrap in the rear, and that's for sure.
All right, here's David Reagan, and you heard the interview early. The young man, second-generation driver. His dad, Ken Reagan, over 80 starts in NASCAR and ARCA competition over the years. And he's throwing this lap away, guys, but it's not too bad below the line.
Right now, he looks pretty good. The land's pretty flat line. He hasn't lost a lot of speed right now. I have to see the end of his first lap because, boy, if he can get himself to about a 49.80, a 49.90, that's a pretty good first lap. David Rudimant's first lap was a 49.93. That's in seconds, 180.23 miles per hour. Let's see how he pops up right here. Still hasn't popped up. What's going on, Jared?
180.843 for David Reagan, and that would be the second quickest lap, first time out. So pretty doggone good for Reagan. He currently is second fastest and now has his best lap yet to come.
And we finally got a car that looks like he's above the line right here. It looks like he's got a chance of beating the pole speed. We see over here on the other side of that graphic, he's just below the lap time at that point of the racetrack.
There's Mike Kelly watching. A moment ago you saw Jack Roush, who's now the half owner of Roush Fenway Racing. We'll explain that in just a moment. Good lap going. Could he pull it off here, guys?
Looks like he can. It's going to be close.
And he did it. How about that for an impressive rookie? David Reagan, 182.849 miles per hour, 49.221 seconds, and he puts the 6th car on the pole thus far after we've had 10 cars qualify. And there's a look at David Rudeman, who just got bumped off the pole. He's still on the front rope as he walks away back toward the garage area. And there are the congratulations to Jack Roush. And congratulations to this young man, 21-year-old David Reagan out of Unadilla, Georgia, now lives in Kannapolis. He's the provisional pole sitter. And back at Daytona, NASCAR Busch Series qualifying underway here for the NASCAR pole. And here is the car that everyone's been watching in practice, and what a phenomenal effort Ward Burton has had in this car, number 27, the 45-year-old former Daytona 500 winner, driving this year for Clarence Brewer in the 27 car. He'll share this car with Jason Keller, by the way. And Andy, he was by far the quickest car in practice yesterday in that final session.
Yeah, he's the favorite for the pole. He was the fastest in that practice session, and he was also fastest in the test down here in January. We saw how passionate he is about the sport yesterday after he didn't make the Daytona 500, got in a wreck, and came in there and just pounded the roof of his car. So I know he really wants to get in the field here, and he's anxious to get racing on Saturday.
He really had a good shot at getting in that race, though, right at the very end, and he had a big run on those guys to get right through the center, and his day just didn't come true. But, boy, I tell you what, he really is excited about getting back in this car. He wants to run strong, and I tell you, Clarence Brewer's car, these Busch cars he has, Clarence's cars have always been strong. Seems like no matter who drives them.
Yeah, he's going to have to pick up almost 7/10 to beat the pole man right now, but that's not out of the question.
And he flashes by. Can he continue to be the man at the head of the list? And no, he will be third quickest as he clocks in Ward Burton, his second lap at 182.537 miles per hour, 49.305 seconds. And that is considerably slower than what he ran in practice. Of course, you got the draft factor in practice, but still slower than anywhere what he hoped to run.
And that's even slower than he tested. So I know these guys are a little disappointed with that lap. But there again, these guys that are locked in the field are making changes to their car to make it better for Saturday's race, and they give up a little bit for qualifying. That may be the case with Ward's car. I know they want that car to drive good. They'd rather win the race than to qualify on the pole.
All right, let's check in. I think Mike Massaro has caught up with our rookie pole sitter thus far.
That's right, Doc. He's a rookie. This was actually his first official lap in a Busch car at the Daytona International Speedway, but David Reagan didn't hold up. How would you describe that lap?
Pretty smooth and easy. If only the Busch race, the whole race could be that easy, we'd be in pretty good shape. But the Discount Tire Ford Fusion's been exceptionally well since the test here in January, and just got to give it to all the guys at Roush Fenway Racing. The restrictor plate racing is all about the guys at the race shop. So it's pretty cool to be on a good team, and just happy to be here.
You mentioned the test. You did bend the car up a little bit during the test back in January. Has to be a little bit daunting for a rookie coming to the Speedway. What's it like for you?
We cut a tire at the test in January. Jason Leffler and I, kind of rubbed before the racing season even got started. But, that just shows you what kind of guys we got back at the shop. We got back, put a left rear quarter panel on this thing. And, since then, it's drafted really well. And I think that the Busch race on Saturday will be a good learning curve for me for the Cup race on Sunday. So, we've got some Discount Tire fans coming, and we're going to have a good time. But what a way to start the season off with the win.
Yeah, and you're right. It might chase that, turn that learning curve down a little bit for you running in the Busch Series here on Saturday. Doc, David Reagan, one of a few guys running the full Busch Series and Cup Series schedule in 2007.
Yeah, he will try to double up, and that he's going to be a very busy fellow. And here's taking a look at the guys who need to qualify on time today. J.J. Yaley, who was the pole sitter for both Daytona Busch Series races a year ago. You see Clint Boyer in that group. Former series champions Truex is there, Earnhardt Jr.
A lot of heavy hitters in that list that have to qualify for the race.
And here are others, if you add Casey Mears. Remember, he's been involved in 2 incidents, neither one of which were his doing, and he's now in a third car as they're getting that car ready. Former series champion 2002 Greg Biffle, and Dave Blaney in the Toyota. Steve Grissom, the 92 champion, and Juan Pablo Montoya. And there's a pretty list of stout drivers that have to get in on time.
Here's a good one right here, Martin Truex. I expect him to have a pretty good qualifying lap. I know he'll be strong on Sunday, but these are the guys, one of the guys I think has to make it on time.
When you're looking at guys like Jamie McMurray, and you look at Greg Biffle, Joe Nemechek, Matt Kempis, David Stremme, guys like that we've been used to seeing for a long time, still got to get in. That's a tough one. Now look, he's got a good lap going on right here, Andy. Above the white line all through turn 1 and 2. Down its back straightaway. And Truex is a guy that we would expect to go ahead and get a pole. I mean, he's won this championship a couple times. He's won at these big speedways. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, this looks really good right here. He's full 1/10 of a second faster than the pole speed right there. So still picking up above the line and still climbing. This is going to be a great lap.
Martin Truex driving for Teresa Earnhardt, DEI. And there's Kevin Mannion as you watch Martin, who won has won 3 times at Talladega. He will flash by, and he looks like he's got the speed and the time. Can he come by and hang on with it? He will flash by, and Martin
right
Truex.
now you're on the pole.
And you heard him telling him that it's on the pole, and indeed it is. Wow, is it on the pole? 183.419 miles per hour. And guys, the first car to go in the 183 mile per hour mark. So Martin Truex Jr., the former 2-time series champions, puts that Chevy Monte Carlo on the pole and gives them something to shoot for. But some heavy hitters coming up when we come back.
We welcome you back with a program reminder that tomorrow the NASCAR Busch Series waves the green flag on ESPN2, just as they will all season long. And our coverage tomorrow begins at noon Eastern. It's also available in high definition on ESPN2 HD. So call your cable operator or satellite provider today. And Mr. Brewer, what do you make of Martin Truex? That was a heck of a run out there.
Tell you what, like I told Andy yesterday, Martin Truex, he gets out of that car in practice. Hey, guys, this is the best car I've ever had here. He's won here before. Hey, it's something to get excited about right there, Andy. I'm telling you, that guy's got something for these guys because he's fast, and he's going to stay fast.
Back to Jerry.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Last year's pole sitter, J.J. Yaley, I should say, on the track in the one car, the James Finch-owned Chevrolet.
This car here, I know they're concerned. I talked to Mark Reno, crew chief on this car, and they're really concerned about making a lap fast enough. They were right on the edge of being fast enough, what they thought in practice and in testing. And we keep referring back to testing. And the reason we do that is because the whole time that they've been down here practicing, only a few cars have gotten clean laps. Laps like we're seeing them run right here. Nobody else on the track, nobody drafting. And that's why we're referring back to their test speeds, because these guys have done extensive testing, single car runs on the racetrack to give them a gauge of where they are. And that's why you keep hearing us say that.
There's a look at the 30-year-old driver, J.J. Yaley, from Chesterfield, Virginia. His 4th year in this series as we watch this car on the track. And remember Yaley, who sat on the pole here a year ago, as we check in now with the current pole sitter, Martin Truex Jr.
Well, Doc, after practice Thursday, Martin Truex Jr. described this car as the best one he's ever driven. It looks like you're backing up those words. What about that lap?
That was a good lap. First of all, I got to thank Johnny and everybody at Bass Pro Shops for coming on board for this race and sponsoring our Chevy. But it was a good lap. It backed up pretty much what we ran yesterday in practice, and I was real proud of the guys. They built about 3 or 4 cars to come here, so they had a lot of work over the winter time, and just want to thank all of them for the hard work. Every time we get it, we come and run these Busch cars, we have a lot of fun, and we're always fast, so it's a pleasure to drive them.
You've won 3 races with this particular race car. How much confidence does that give you going into Saturday's race?
A lot of it. The car's been good throughout practice. It's been fast, but it's been driving well, too, which is really important here. So I'm looking forward to it. This is the first car I've ever raced here with Daytona, and hopefully we can get another win with it on Saturday.
Jerry's had this car for a few years. He's taken pretty good care of it, and it has taken good care of him. Jerry?
No doubt about it. 3 wins at Talladega, and certainly this car is awfully stout. As you see J.J. Yaley slowing down. His fast lap not quick enough. He is currently 12th quickest, and by the way, he is the 7th driver of the 13 who have qualified who will also be running double duty, running not only the Orbitz 300 but also the Daytona 500 here this coming weekend.
We saw one guy happy with Martin Truex, but this guy here is not going to be very happy at all. This is going to, I see why Mark Reno was concerned. This is going to put him right there on the edge and on the bubble of making the field.
Well, if you just joined our coverage and you want to know who's at the head of the field, well, how about taking a look here? The guy who was awfully stout in practice was one Ward Burton. But here comes the 99 car. That is David Rudiman. He is 3rd quickest. Ward is 4th quickest in the session. Rudiman in the Aaron's Dream Machine Toyota from Michael Waldrop. He held the pole for a while, and then this guy came along. How about a youngster rookie driver, David Reagan, out of Unadilla, Georgia? Yeah, that's the 6th car, the number you normally thought with Mark Martin. And just moments ago, 2-time NASCAR Busch Series champion Martin Truex Jr. Yeah, comes out of that Bass Pro Shop Chevrolet, and he has set the time and speed to beat at over 183.419 miles per hour. Truex, the only car in the 183 mile per hour bracket. When we come back, more qualifying from Daytona. Back at Daytona, NASCAR Busch Series qualifying underway, and here's the 28 car of Robert Richardson Jr., the 24-year-old Fort Worth, Texas driver, former SMU quarterback, and winner of the Lone Star Legends Championship as a stock car driver early in his career. And steam just coming off the hood there. He is currently 12th quickest at 180.600 miles per hour in the Checkers Rallies Chevrolet. That's the Jay Robinson, Troy Stafford-owned car as he slows down. And why don't we check with the 2002 Busch Series champion, Greg Biffle.
Well, Doc, we're standing down here talking. You like the new fire suit? It's a new sponsor, and he says real men wear pink. He has pink on the car. Greg, you having a good time with that, or are you just getting stuff from your teammates?
I'm having a good time with it. Matt's giving me a little trouble with it, but he likes Oreo cookies too, so he can't complain. But no, the guys are doing a good job in the car. Took a little time to get through tech. I don't know what happened, but we're hoping to get up there and get a good lap. I see our teammates are running well. We think it's going to run well. I got to qualify on time, so we're hoping that the car's got a lot of speed.
What does that do to you? A little extra pressure, maybe?
It is, but here driver can't do a lot, but qualifying. So hopefully the guys got all the things done they need to do, got all the oils in it, and brakes pulled back, and everything we can do to get a fast lap out of that car. All
right, Greg Biffle in the 26 today, guys.
And he'll be in that 16, of course, the other one of the other Roush cars for quite a bit of the year. Well, here is a car to keep an eye on, this 87 car on the track, and for a number of reasons. They don't call this guy Front Row Joe for nothing. Joe Nemechek and the Brunton Vineyard Chevrolet. This is his own car, owned by this Nimco Motorsports, and he is a 5-time pole sitter. Yes, I said 5 times this guy's won the pole here at Daytona in a Busch car.
He really gets into qualifying at Daytona and Talladega, Jerry. He puts a lot of effort into it. It seems like every time you go to Daytona or Talladega, you can call him Front Row Joe because he's always up there. He just, like you said, 5 times, and I guarantee he'd like to make it 6 because he just loves his quality. It's like he has fun tinkering with these cars, Andy, to get them going at this 2 tracks.
Yeah, he's kind of like a crew chief. He wants to be a crew chief too. He gets really involved in his Busch Series efforts. They didn't get to run down here last year. I talked to Joe when they were down here testing. His car was pretty fast, but they talked to him today. They didn't think that they had a shot at the pole. I know they've got a lot of poles down here, and I know he'd like to be on the pole, but said he didn't think they had a shot down here this year.
You see his career there, one championship, the 1992 NASCAR Busch Championship, 2-time most popular driver, very popular with the fans, originally from Lakeland, Florida, just about an hour and a half away from where we are in Daytona. And his first time by 180.252 miles per hour. That would hopefully need to pick that up quite a bit as Martin Truex Jr. watches on the right side of your screen.
And as you can see right now, the speed's he's about 1/10 of a second off. Our tractor's now starting to gain just a little bit in the back, but I'm not so sure we've got good, accurate information right there. We got a little noise in our information there, but still always real close in the back, about 1/10 off still, Andy. Just a little bit all over the board right now. Wind seems to be affecting that car.
Well, he ran a 49.93. He'd have to pick up almost 8-9 tenths to get on the pole. So it doesn't look like he's going to be able to do that.
And here comes Nemechek by. By the way, he will run Daytona, California, Las Vegas early part of the year, and we'll try to run a lot more races in the second half of the season. And he clocks in. Hey, he picked it up, 5th quickest.
Yeah, that's a pretty good lap. I think that maybe even surprised him a little bit. That's going to put him up there in maybe the top 15 in qualifying. He'll be happy with that.
And guys, you see that steam coming off the hood of the car, and they obviously Andy, you see that a lot in qualifying, and that's obviously something that everyone watches when the car finishes that second lap.
Yeah, it means they got all there was there. They put all the tape they can put on there, put the water temperature as high as they can get it, and make the most speed as possible.
All right, the car's overheating because they have the tape all the way across the front of that grill.
Well, one of my concerns is you're losing a lot of water out of this car. Now, NASCAR doesn't let them touch these cars. They impound it. If they lose too much water out of this radiator, I mean, that could cause them a problem in the race.
I think they let them top it back off with water, but they certainly don't want to hurt the engine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Joe Balley said today they are going to let them top it off in gas and water. And just check a couple of quick things, but otherwise the cars are impounded after qualifying.
Well, we welcome welcome you back to NASCAR Busch Series qualifying, part of DirecTV Speed Weeks here at Daytona. The Busch race, of course, tomorrow on Saturday, and we'll take to the air on ESPN2 at high noon. Tim Brewer, you've been looking at that wind and how it's shifting out there. Tell me about the impact.
I tell you what, like the guys were talking about earlier today in the booth, you know, that wind, you're sitting out here with a qualifying gear in the car. You got to get in this race probably about a 315 gear, and that wind, you run into it down that back stretch, you look down there at that tachometer and it's backing up going the wrong way. Hey, you're in big trouble there, man.
Back we go to Jerry.
All right, thank you, guys. This is Brad Keselowski as he has just finished his qualifying efforts. And, guys, he has to get in on speed, and that was not a good lap for this young 23-year-old driver whose dad was an all-time ARCA champion.
That's the slowest car so far. I know that he's going to be disappointed. That's probably not going to make the field.
177.385, and that moves him in as the slowest car of the 16 that have taken qualifying time thus far. And you see at the bottom of the screen, you'll see how they line up the car numbers and the rows as they have qualified thus far. And this guy may not need introduction in terms of who he is, but you certainly don't expect him to see him in this colors. The 06, that is the Dish Network Ford. And yes, that is a Jack Roush car. It is the Roush Fenway racing team for Mark Martin, the winningest driver in NASCAR Busch Series history. 47 career wins. And there, of course, is Jack Roush. Made the announcement earlier in the week this Wednesday that his organization would now be Roush Fenway, as John W. Henry, who is the principal owner of New England Sports Ventures, owns the Boston Red Sox, and Fenway Park was on hand, as was Josh Beckett, Mike Timlin, and Tim Wakefield, 3 Boston Red Sox players and all 5 of his drivers, announcing this new organization called Roush Fenway Racing. And that's a pretty landmark statement as you take a look at the crew chief there watching Chad Norris watching Mark Martin in his qualifying efforts.
Nothing new. Mark Martin having his car owner Jack Roush standing there watching him qualify, even though he's left there to go do other things in the Cup Series. Still driving the Busch car for Jack Roush.
Now this is his throwaway lap. He's got the car up high off of turn 4, and he's coming down. This will be the lap. He's going for the money now. They're going to get the left front tire right on the bottom of that yellow line again, folks, through turn 1 and 2. Reagan Smith, he had a really good run in that other Ford. I tell you, that is a sister car.
He's got the fastest first lap so far.
Well, I told you Mark is not only the winningest driver in NASCAR Busch Series history in terms of wins, he's also won more poles than anyone. He has 30 career poles in NASCAR Busch Series racing. 12 times he's raced here. He has never won a NASCAR Busch Series event at Daytona.
Looks like we're missing some data down the backstretch to draw that line like we want to, but I think he's going to be really close to the pole.
Jerry, why in the world is it I keep confusing Reagan Smith with David Reagan? Those two race short tracks together. I can't, it's hard to believe they're still in the track like Daytona. They keep calling them different names, but I was talking, folks, about David Reagan.
Here he comes by at 183.25 out, and Mark Martin is second quickest, 49.111 seconds. And the 06 right now will share the front row with Martin Truex Jr. So 48-year-old Mark Martin jumps back in a Jack Roush car for twice this year, and the first time out thus far he puts it on the front row.
He had the fastest first lap, and he just missed the pole by less than a half-tenth of a second. So these guys are going to be real happy with that.
Mark Martin, a guy that's ran 36 Cup races last year, decided to not do it any longer, and I believe now he's itinerary is up to 40. He's got Cup races, Busch races, truck races. He's all in for everything. Makes you wonder, why'd he do that? But that's something his own personal decision.
All right, from one of the most veteran drivers in the history of the sport to one of the promising young rookies, 19-year-old Stephen Wallace. And yes, he is the son of former NASCAR Cup Series champion Rusty Wallace, and it has been a bit of a struggle this week for Steve. Third quickest the opening practice session, minding his own business, and suddenly he gets, boom, Casey Mears in the right side door, and they had to work half the night and early the next day to cut the right side of that car off and fix it again. Stephen trying to explain to the crew, he said, I'm doing nothing, guys. I'm down here, and all of a sudden I get a Chevy in my door. And the teams came in and worked all night early the next morning. This was on Thursday morning, and then he goes out for the final practice session, again, sort of minding his own business, and suddenly There he is. The car spins and just nudges the outside wall of the concrete there. And fortunately, that was all the contact he had there in the home life guys. They rolled it up on the rollback. He went to the infield care center to be checked on and do a little more massaging on that car. And just like his dad, he is a very aggressive driver, and there is very little patience in him. He wants to put this thing on the front row.
I see him blowing a little bit of water out of the overflow right there coming down the backstretch.
Looks like the car's running a little bit warm right off the bat. Looks like they've got maybe not cooled down enough yet to make a 2-lap run like it's doing, but looks like they got the car put back together. It looks real nice. Nice smooth lap.
He will come by and take the white flag. First time by for Stephen Wallace, 179.522, which puts him 17th right now on the speed charts. But again, that is the throwaway lap, and if you just joined our coverage, the throwaway lap means that you simply don't even worry about speed. You're setting it up for, I guess, for this lap.
It takes 2 laps to get these cars with a restrictor plate wound up enough to run fast and get the optimum speed out of it. After 2 laps, that's about as fast as they'll go. But that's why they use that high line, just to get the most momentum they can before they make that money lap on that second lap.
Again, the screen you're looking at here, the 11 car, that white line, that is the speed and the time to beat for the 11 car Martin Truex Jr. As you watch Steve Wallace, 19th career Busch Series start, and very successful last year in the ARCA Series. Had 4 ARCA wins in 7 starts, so the young man has proven that he can get it done in a hurry. He flashes by, and he picked it up quite a bit, 181.349 miles per hour, 49.628 seconds, and Rusty, he right now is 12th overall in qualifying.
It ain't bad, Steve. That is by far the fastest we have run the whole time. That is 12th.
That should be a safe lap for him.
Yeah, he's in the race, and I'm really happy with that as an owner. And I know Stevens wants to be on the pole because he's a young guy wanting to have the fastest lap. But this is the car that Jamie McMurray drove last year from a 32nd starting position up to take the lead about 10 laps in a race. So we know the car runs fast. Stevens just needs to be patient right now. Hey, that thing's in one piece. And after the couple days he's had down here, guys, I'm happy to see it looking like that right now.
Car looks good. Great effort by Steve Wallace, 19 years of age. Now, how about the driver who finished second in the points a year ago, and everyone says this guy's the guy to beat in 2007 for the Busch Series title, Jamie Little?
That's right, including our own Andy Petrie yesterday or 2 days ago went on the record and said he was going to be the man. Carl Edwards going to be the champion this year. Carl, a lot of the Cup guys not coming back for a full season. Where does that put you this season?
I think it's good for us,
yeah,
you know, competing for the championship. But, you know, it's like I said, I mean, last year they picked us to win the Nextel Cup Series championship, and that definitely didn't happen. So, I mean, you can't count your, count your chickens or whatever, count your eggs. But we're just going to go give it our best. We've got a great Scott's team here. Mark Martin just ran a really great lap in that Dish Network Fusion, so that's good for us. And the biggest thing for me this season is just to go out and get some wins for these guys and have some fun. And if we end up winning the championship, that'll be great. The good part is Kevin Harvick is not scheduled to run all the races, so that's good news for everybody, and it should be a great year.
Well, Carl Edwards certainly has a busy schedule this weekend. He's running trucks, Cup, and now he's trying to qualify for Busch, guys.
And guys, on Saturday, he will join us as an in-race reporter. Carl Edwards will actually be on his radio talking to us and all of you at home and telling you what's happening out there in that race car. Here's a guy that's going to run them all in NASCAR, Busch, and Cup, and I can't wait to hear from him in the car. I heard from you in the car a lot of years, but no, you weren't on television at the time.
There's many times I wanted to push that button, Jerry, let everybody know how upset I was with that car, or how happy I am with that car, or say, hey, get this guy out of my way, or hey, do this or do that. Now the fans are going to hear that from Carl, and I'll tell you what, he's one good guy to listen to.
Yeah, we had you, we never would have gotten the word in because you talked all the time in the race car. Greg Biffle here, out to qualify, the 2002 Busch Series champion, and as we heard in the interview earlier, he is going to drive this 26 car for a limited number of events this year. He will actually be in the 16 car for quite a few of the races, and he will share that ride with Todd Cleaver.
Another good first lap, 49.69. That's a great first lap. That's the second fastest first lap we've seen. As we can see, look here, he's going to be really close. If he can pick it up off of turn 4, he might get there.
And here comes the Oreo Ford, trying to stuff it in the front row. Let's see, can he do it? And he just misses the front row. He's third quickest at 183.217 miles per hour. And he said when he was interviewed earlier about, well, boy, he said Truex and Martin put up pretty good laps, but not a bad effort at all for Greg Biffle.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you look at the two Roush cars, Mark Martin and Greg Biffle are only 1/100th of a second apart. That man right there, Jack Roush, sure does prepare the cars even, doesn't he?
Jack Roush has been very successful over the years, and now he's hoping to get one of these 6 cars, yes, he has 6 cars in this race, into victory lane.
Less than 24 hours now before they drop the green flag for the Busch race here at Daytona Beach. And this aerial coverage brought to you by Goodyear Tires, featuring triple tread technology. Well, you heard Carl refer to Kevin Harvick and how happy the competitors are. He's not running a full series. Jerry, Harvick won 9 Busch Series races last year. He led for 1,220 laps. You talk about dominating a series. Kevin Harvick did that last year. In fact, he made the Busch Series boring, didn't he?
Almost. He had 9 wins, and he had one more win at Homestead, would have tied the all-time season record with 10 with Sam Ard. Here's a look at Matt Kenseth, by the way, currently 4th quickest. And a lot of people thought he might have a shot at the front row, but not bad at all, as he right now is 4th overall. And talking about the guy who owns this car, he's standing by with Dave Burns.
And Jerry, Jack and I were looking at the board here, noticing that the cars were all clumped together. There was only one problem, Jack. They were 1 position off.
Yeah, we just need to shift it up 1 spot there. The 11 car got out and had just a great lap. But I'm really proud of my guys. Of course, we've got 6 entries here as it's worked out, with Mark Martin coming back for a guest appearance. But, you know, the cars have never been more even. Harry McMullen and the guys at the Busch Truck Shop have done a great job preparing the cars. And George Gable and the guys over at the engine shop have got us engines are just right on top of one another. So I'm anxious to see how the 2 remaining cars will do. The later it gets, the faster they should be. So, but these cars, these first 4 ran all very close to the same time. We couldn't have had 4 more equal cars.
And I would say this would be a good week to have your Busch cars anyway, all running so well with the new ownership partnership that we saw announced earlier this week. I wanted to ask you, Jack, do you think that's a trend we're going to see more and more in Nextel Cup and Busch Series racing as the sport continues to be expensive and there's more sports entities maybe interested in Cup teams?
Well, I'll answer that question in a minute, but first I hope John Henry and all the guys of the Findlay Sports Group are watching tonight, because this is what we want to try to give them, a real consistent deal, run at the top of the board, and hopefully we can deliver a win for one of our sponsors. But I don't know that this will be a trend. You know, John Henry and the guys with the Red Sox organization are really, really special people in all of the sport world. You know, not only are they able to do a good job within their own program, you know, for their baseball fans and their players and for their stadium, but also they look beyond that, and of course they're involved with golf and other things. I don't know if another organization has got that breadth and that interest, but you know, it's for sure good for me to have a friend that has substantial means to stand behind me and beside me and help me meet the challenges, both in terms of making day-to-day business decisions and competitive decisions, but also to be able to say, you know, if it goes bad, if we've got a challenge, I'll help out.
So they're friends, they're business partners, and Alan, it looks like, still very successful racers.
Thank you for that. Back in the garage area, in the middle of a chaotic conversation, which has to be the case if this man's around. John Force, Daytona always brings him out from all forms of racing. Have you ever driven an oval track car? Do you have any desire?
Well, I'm an NHRA Powerade drag race guy that goes straight at 300. But yeah, I went to Buddy Baker's driving school and went through the course. And when it was over and had a beer, he told me I ran quick enough to qualify at Daytona, but I think he was lying. You know the gang. But yeah, they're cool. They're just a different world that I'm used to. I'm afraid to stand around here so I don't get run over.
We'll be sure and keep that from happening to you. Now, you got a lot of interesting things going on over on the NHRA drag racing side. First of all, your daughter's racing. Tell us about that.
Well, it's a time in our sport. You know, Shirley Muldowney, a woman, opened the doors to women in NHRA drag racing. And now they have all 4 pro categories have females in pro stock bike, pro stock, top fuel dragster. Now my daughter Ashley in the funny car, which we believe is the toughest animal to drive. But she's evolving real good. It was a tough weekend at Pomona. It was the quickest funny car field in history. And all 4 of our Mustang cars got in, the AAA car and the Castrol cars. And I actually bumped my daughter Ashley out on Saturday night. And she bumped right back in. So all 4 of us made the team. The field, I was really excited for her. I didn't want to bump my kid out at her first race. And we got beat, but my AAA car went on to the final, didn't win the final, but ran the quickest run in history, and didn't get the record because they didn't back it up, but we know our hot rods are fast, so Ford's happy and we're happy.
Have you talked with Ashley about when the two of you might line up side by side in an elimination? What that's going to be like, who wins and who loses as far as feelings afterwards?
Well, it was a packed house there, you know, like, 50,000 people, and they were announcing that I had Ashley first round after that last session, and then Ron Capps come through and bumped the field, and she ended actually up racing Robert. But, we go there to win. That's what we do, put on a show. It's entertainment, and we go there to make the money that Powerade and NHRA put up. But bottom line, I'm going to race her like I do anybody else. She's my kid. I love her with all my heart. We've done everything to keep her safe and in a good hot rod. And she drilled last week because she had a bad fire at Phoenix. And she got out of the car and she goes, "Dad, I met the monster." And I said, "No, you met the little brother of the monster. The big one's out there." So we drilled her in the car, setting out the bottles, getting in and out. Like 30, 40 times she went out the rib hatch to see how quick she could be. So she's got it down pat. She's going to be okay, but she comes up against the old man, I'm taking her out. And she's going to try to do the same to me.
John Force, how do you follow that? Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Great to be here in Daytona meeting all my friends. Yeah.
How about that? I mean, one of the all-time greatest to ever set sail down the quarter mile, John Force. And it's sort of like Rusty. He's never at a loss for words, huh?
I'll tell you what, that guy's a talker. I love that man to death. He's amazing. I'm glad he's here at a NASCAR race, too. We all love drag racing, but, Don Perdome, one of my best buddies, and Force. I love seeing these guys around here. They're really cool.
By the way, while John was talking about what was happening with he and his daughter Ashley, which I think is fascinating, by the way, Dave Blaney clocked the 4th quickest time overall in the fastest Toyota at 183.064 miles per hour as we watch David Stremme right now on the track.
And when our pole sitter ran his lap, we missed a little bit of data while he was running. It actually was an interruption in the data, and that's why we see some of these little glitches sometimes, like in this red line. We see it right here. And if Martin Truex were to get bumped and somebody else be on there, this data may be a little more accurate, but it's still a pretty good gauge. We're looking up here in this right up here at the time, so we're kind of keeping an eye on that to track these guys' laps too.
David Stremme, 29 years of age, from South Bend, Indiana. As you take a look at the red line now, nosing down, he's trying to get up over 181 if he can on this time by, and he will come sailing by. And he does get over 181.210 miles per hour, but that's still only good enough to put him in 17th spot of the 22 cars that have qualified. So the Armando Fitz machine will have to go back to work, but I'm sure David Stremme, with all his experience, will be a factor come race day with the Supercuts Dodge. When we come back, more cars to qualify. Dale Earnhardt Jr., Bobby Labonte, and Tony Stewart. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. NASCAR Busch Series qualifying continuing. And take a look at the temperatures. You heard Andy Petrie talk about how the wind gusts and the temperatures could impact qualifying. We're about now where we were in qualifying when we began qualifying. The pole sitter ran at 54 degrees. Now it's a little bit warmer. Track temperature up a little bit. And actually the wind is pretty even, Andy, but they are calling for record lows here tonight. Later this afternoon, they're saying tonight we can be down to 30 degrees. I'm wondering how much that will drop toward the end of qualifying.
I think we'll see it drop some, but when you have the wind that's that consistent, it makes it fair for everybody. And this is, as a crew chief, what we want to see. We just don't want to see a bunch of gusts and wind changing direction and that sort of thing. As long as it's the same for everybody, we're all good with it.
One thing about Daytona, when you're here running, the track conditions can change a little bit. The speeds of the cars generally stay fairly close because you're running wide open. 49.07 on John Andretti.
That's second quick.
Second. That's a great lap for that car. I didn't expect that. That came out of nowhere from what we had calculated here, didn't Andy?
Well, John had actually been pretty good in the practice sessions, but that Toyota awfully good. I talked with John this morning in the garage area, and he had a twinkle in his eye. I said, you know what? I think we've got a shot. And I sort of looked at him and said, are you sure? And sure enough, Andretti on the front row. Well, this guy, that is Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the Chevy Monte Carlo. No stranger to victory lane here at Daytona. Let's turn back the clock to February 2004. The Daytona 500, the great American race. Could he hold on and win it in front of Tony Stewart? And indeed, as they came across for the checkered flag, 180,000 fans on their feet, and they got to see Dale Earnhardt Jr. win the race that his famous father took 20 years to claim. Oh, what a celebration that was. Well, they had to run the Busch Series event on Monday because of rain on Saturday. And guess who on the hunt? Dale Earnhardt Jr. helping getting a little bit of a push by as he celebrates with the NASCAR Busch Series win. So Earnhardt Jr. pulls off the sweep in February 2004. How about that for a pretty good series? He has won 5 times in 11 events and 6 top 5s. In fact, he has won 5 of the last 10 Busch Series events run here at Daytona. Batting 500, not bad here when you got 42 other cars you got to beat.
Yeah, I remember another Earnhardt had similar success down here, and looks like the Junior's taking it to another level.
Again, the time he's got to beat is his teammate. That is Martin Truex Jr. in the one of the other DEI car, the 183.419 miles per hour. Truex ran a 49.068 second lap.
Got to be pretty encouraged by that lap of Martin Truex.
Well, guess what? Earnhardt, first time by, he threw that one away completely. In fact, that one's lost. He's 22nd overall at 49.919. And that is almost a second slower than the pole.
That's a couple tenths slower than his teammate ran on his first lap.
But we all know what he can do down here. And Earnhardt Jr., a 5-time winner at Daytona, as we mentioned. 3 in a row in the NASCAR Busch Series. And there's the screen on the bottom again. That white line is the Martin Truex line, and the red line is the Earnhardt Jr. second qualifying lap. He is below the white line, means he is slower.
You know, the wind's picked up about 15 miles per hour right now, guys. That's the highest it's been all day long. That could be affecting his lap, because Truex and Junior should be a lot closer than this.
Earnhardt Jr. will flash by, and he goes all the way up to 8th position. So the 8 car qualifies 8th right now, and that lap 182.637 miles per hour, 49.278 seconds. And I'll remind you guys that this race in the modern era of the NASCAR Busch Series has never been won from the pole. I'm not so sure you want to sit on the pole. The outside front row has been won 6 times, and last year Tony Stewart won it from 14th starting spot, and in 2005 Tony Stewart won it from 16th starting spot. Dale Earnhardt Jr. right now clocking in at 8th quickest in the 8 car, the Johns Manville Chevrolet. Back with more qualifying in just a moment. Welcome back. Beautiful Daytona Beach, Florida. NASCAR Busch Series action. We are just 4 miles inland from the Atlantic Ocean at the massive 480-acre complex that is Daytona International Speedway, the world center of racing. And just completing his qualifying lap, former NASCAR Busch Series and NASCAR Nextel Cup champion Bobby Labonte. And he clocked in 24th quickest in the Dollar General store Chevy in his backup car. You say, why is he in a backup car? Well, here's what happened in the final practice session.
This is a classic case of bump draft, and his teammate, owner really, Kevin Harvick, got behind him trying to help him, hit him in the rear of the car on an angle, and turned Bobby dead sideways into the wall, wiping out Harvick's own car, which he's the owner of.
Kevin Harvick into the back of that car. Talked to Kevin last night. I said, man, I wouldn't wreck anybody, particularly my own car. There's a look at the NASCAR Busch Series career for Bobby Labonte. 9 wins in 16 seasons of competition, 10 poles. And he will drive 18 events this year for Kevin Harvick Incorporated in that 77 car. He will start, though, from toward the back of the pack as Bobby Labonte right now being shown in 24th position.
Wally Rogers told me that their car that they crashed was their fastest car. But this car, they really like the way it handled, so he's really looking forward to the race, and he's not too concerned about his qualifying lap.
I know the guys over at Harvick's, they put a lot of effort in these cars. They feel like they're awful close. But, you know, if anybody's going to help anybody, it's going to be Harvick helping his own team, which is driven by Bob Labonte. Tried to shove him through there, but, boy, I tell you, that bump draft that gets a little hairy in that back straightaway looks like what's got him in trouble. But, like you said, Jerry, Harvick would never do that on purpose.
Well, from one NASCAR Busch Series champion to another former series champion, Steve Grissom in the 34 car. Grissom, of course, the 1993 series champion, and he is driving the 34. Brian Kahns was scheduled to drive this car but could not be approved as yet for super speedway racing, so the Frank Cece owned car goes to the former series champion Grissom out of Gadsden, Alabama. As you watch a former champion, why don't we talk to a former winner, in fact, a two-time consecutive winner here in NASCAR Busch competition. Tony Stewart standing by with Jamie Little.
That's right, Doc. He's won here the last 2 years, and so far this has been his week 2 for 2. You won the Bud Shootout. You won your duels race yesterday. Tony, are you going to make it 3 for 3 here in the Busch Series?
I certainly hope so, especially for Kevin and Delana Harvick and everybody at Old Spice. We've had 2 great years here in the Busch Series, and like I said, we've had an awesome start to the week. So we hate to break the string tomorrow. So my plan is 3 for 3 this week and 3 for 3 in the Busch Series.
Let's talk about what you did this morning, first thing when you got up.
Very early wake-up call this morning. We had the Darrell Gwynn Foundation Hot Rods and Reels tournament this morning on Lake Lloyd here in the infield. So really cold, but we did catch 2 fish, so we had a good time there and got to see our buddy Johnny Morrison Bass Pro Shops out there, so it was good to see him this morning too.
Catch a couple bass.
Beth Ann Morgenthau actually caught the only bass, and then I caught oh, geez, and crackers. Crappie. I caught a crappie this morning. See, I'm still waking up. But the crappie didn't count, so Beth Ann's fish was the only one that counted. So she's a good car owner and a good fisherman, too.
All right, Tony Stewart kicking off the day. Fishing here at the infield, guys. How cool is that?
That's awesome. I talked to some of the bass guys that were here yesterday, and I said, every time I go fishing, all I catch is a cold down here. But they was pretty chilly, but they're having some good times. And, man, is he going to be tough to beat again this year in the Old Spice car. Next car to go out to qualify, Bobby Hamilton Jr. And what an emotional couple of months it has been. His dad, Bobby Hamilton Sr., succumbing to cancer just about a month ago and passed away in his home in Nashville, Tennessee. And Bobby Hamilton Sr., such a major part of the sport of motorsports. And we remember Bobby Hamilton Sr., one of his most memorable wins. We turn back the clock to 2001. Talladega Superspeedway. Look at the colors of yellow and blue on the 55 car. He comes down and takes the victory. And who was the owner of that car? That's Andy Petrie jumping around. Watch Petrie come. No, oh, not on the hood. Oh, hey. Well, I guess you own the car, Andy. That was your first Cup Series victory as an owner.
It was a very special day for me and my team, and I'll tell you what, we're really going to miss Bobby Sr. This is neat to see this paint scheme. It looks very similar to our car in 2001, and that's what the intent was here, is to give a tribute to his father.
Well, Ed Renzi and Gary Weisbaum own this car, and they said, we want to paint this car up in remembrance as a tribute to Bobby Hamilton Sr. And when Bobby Jr. came down here and climbed in the car, he became very emotional looking at the colors. And, of course, the McDonald's sponsor could have said, no, we want to stick with our orange and yellow colors. They said, no, we want this car to be a memory for Bobby Hamilton Sr. As a tribute to all he meant for all of us in racing.
Yeah, I talked to him this morning, and he said the first renderings he saw this car, it had all the Square D decals and everything all over it. And Bobby, he said, no, he says, I don't want you to do that. I want to make sure that McDonald's is represented well. And it's really a nice thing that they did for Bobby Jr. To recognize his dad and all his great accomplishments. We're really going to miss Bobby Sr.
He said, every time I'm introduced, he said, that's my tribute to my dad, because they will say Bobby Hamilton Jr. And I will think of my dad and all he meant to me and helped get my career back on track. A year ago, this young man floundered a little bit, trying his hand at Winston, at Nextel Cup competition, but now has come back home, where he had a lot of success with the Ed Renzi team in the NASCAR Busch Series. Will run the entire season.
This is another car not too concerned about qualifying. They got their car set up just for the race. They got a guaranteed starting spot by being in the top 30 in points from last year. And they just want to get a starting spot, and it's pretty good when they're in 17th spot, 49.627, 181.35 miles an hour. That may even be a little better than they hoped for.
And you can take these cars out here and you can set them up for a single lap run under the rules that NASCAR gives you, and you can make a run quicker than they are running in race practice right now. But the whole thing, we've got so wrapped up in trying to make these Busch cars run fast single lap that it really kills them when it comes time to race them. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because the amount of things you can change on a Busch car versus a Cup are so limited that even if you really wanted to make them run fast in qualifying versus racing, you just couldn't do both. It's just impossible.
Well, I ask a lot of the guys this very same question. I ask of a lot of crew chiefs in the garage area, what have you done to your car to compromise your race setup just to qualify a little faster? And I got varied opinions. Different people I talked to, the guys that have to make it on speed, obviously they would be making more compromises to their car for, as far as the race trim package, going more towards the qualifying just to get a fast lap.
And there's guys I've talked to that said, we're just going to get it in the race, and then if it's handling terrible, we'll wait for the first pit stop. We'll get a rubber in the right rear spring. We'll try things like that. But right now, we're just going to throw away the race, go for qualifying to get into show, and we'll work on it as the race gets on. That's pretty nervy having to do that.
As you take a look at Carl Edwards' car coming up to speed, let's check in with the reigning NASCAR Busch Series champion. Jamie?
That's right, Kevin Harvick, and you mentioned Carl Edwards was talking about Kevin Harvick and that his chances are up and now since you're not full-time this season. Kevin, tell me about the Busch Series and how you're looking at it this year.
Well, we're looking to win races and have a good time, kind of how we've approached it over the last few years, just go out, and I'm not the type that wants to sit in the motorhome on Saturday and just kind of watch the races. I'd rather be on the track and in the car. So we've got the AutoZone Chevrolet this year. It should be a lot of fun in the 21 and the 33 and the 77. So we're going to kind of be all over the place. But looking forward to tomorrow's race. Qualifying is probably it just kind of is what it is. It's just a number on the board to start, and then the excitement will start tomorrow. So car's really good in race trim. Probably not very good in qualifying trim, but that doesn't pay very good.
Well, there's a lot of fans waiting to see the 21 Kevin Harvick get back in the Busch car, guys.
Well, what a domination he had last year. He ran all but one lap in the entire 35 race season, $2.8 million in earnings, and won 9 wins in NASCAR Busch Series to pick up his second championship. And Jack Roush knows that this guy right here has the potential not only to win the Busch title, but to win the Cup title as well.
Looks like we might have another player. Carl Edwards running a pretty good first lap. He'd have to pick up about 7/10 to challenge for the pole. And that's just outside of what we've seen. So he may be able to get right up there, but he may not be able to knock the pole man off.
Again, Carl Edwards will join us in our telecast of the race on board the car from the radio. He will be one of our commentators during the event coverage on Saturday. And Carl flashes by.
Great job.
And he is third quickest.
07, pump your brakes, pump your brakes. Awesome, great job. That's the best we've been, guys. The best we've ever been down here. I really appreciate all the hard work. Everybody, thank you.
And just a little bit of a taste of what you will hear on Saturday during our coverage of the Orbitz 300. You will hear Carl Edwards from inside the car, and with that good a car, you might hear him leading the field under yellow at times. We'll be able to talk for Carl and have him tell us what's happening on the racetrack.
You really got to hand it to Roush for the cars he's brought down. He's got 5 cars right now, all within 1/10 of a second. I mean, that is really, really hard to do something like that, Andy, as you well know. And Roush has got to be proud. I mean, the guys from Fenway, they got to be pretty pumped about that also.
Yeah, the crew chief's doing a good job of all communicating and getting all the best things they can on their cars and getting them all really close, and they're all up front, so they got to be really happy.
These top 3 times at 49.06, 49.07, 49.07 makes me feel like we're at Martinsville, Virginia or something, where the times are so close. I've never seen times that close at a speedway versus a short track. These are short track looking times.
That is a great indication of just how competitive this NASCAR Busch Series will be in 2007. And yes, we are thrilled to be the exclusive home of the NASCAR Busch Series on our Disney family of networks. 29 of the 35 races on ESPN2, the other 6 on ABC. So we will have flag-to-flag coverage of the NASCAR Busch Series season. What a great way to start it with this kind of tight qualifying here at Daytona. Martin Truex Jr. on the pole. John Andretti. Yeah, John Andretti, who was the nephew of Mario Andretti, on the outside front row. And then a couple of Roush cars, Carl Edwards and Mark Martin in row 2.
Toyota people have to be pretty happy. They got John Andretti up on the front row right now, and I know that that's meeting with their expectations coming into the Busch Series.
Well, it's Chevy, Toyota, and Ford, the top 3. You can't have much better than that right now as we're looking down the line. And the quickest Dodge right now is that of Reed Sorensen. He's down in 14th position. There's Dan Deeringoff watching the 2 car. This is one of the Richard Childress cars. Richard Childress actually has 3 cars that will be attempting to qualify. Clint Boyer in this car, who finished in 3rd in the points in this series a year ago. And also Kevin Harvick will be in the 21, and of course the 29 of Jeff Burton and Scott Wimmer.
Well, he still has to make it on speed. He did finish 3rd in points last year, but they swapped the points over to another car, so he still has to make it on speed. Looks like he's going to be able to do that, but he's not going to be up on the front row.
Richard Childress opting to take the points this car earned last year, which would guarantee it a starting spot, and move it to the 29 car, which will actually run the full season with Scott Wimmer and Jeff Burton aboard. This car will run, I think, 17 races with Clint Boyer and maybe a couple others with some development drivers. .182.175 miles per hour for Boyer puts him in the top 15 at 49.403 seconds.
That'll be a safe lap for making the field. I know they're happy with that. They were talking about maybe if they could run a 50 or better, they'd be happy, and that does that for them.
Now, Andy, one car I'm looking at right now, Jason Leffler is going to come up in a couple cars. He's a teammate of Johnny Andretti over there at Braun Racing. A lot of people have picked that car to run, be probably one of the best single car Busch teams, or single non-cup own teams, I guess you could say, to qualify. Now, with him running that well, Andretti at a 49.07, you know, I kind of really look at the 38 car as the top car in that team, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see him pop up and grab that pole.
Right now, Martin Truex Jr. is the guy to beat, but how about the guy who did it all last year? He's waiting to go out with the Old Spice machine, going to spice up qualifying. We'll have him and more when we come back. Back at Daytona, Eric Almirola, and guess what? This is the car that sat on the pole a year ago, and guess what it did this year? Once again, it is on the front row on the pole. 48.98 seconds. Rusty Wallace, 183.741 miles per hour.
I'll tell you, these things just never quit surprise me. What happens just about the time you think there's nobody's going to beat Martin Truex, Eric pops up a 98. That's a heck of a lap. Now, I didn't see that one coming either. You know, these guys, when you're watching practice yesterday and the day before, they're all in single. Nobody's running single lap runs, Andy. They're all in these big drafts. We just can't pick these numbers out. But they've done a good job getting this hot rod running, that's for sure.
This is a Joe Gibbs racing car, the Banquet Chevy, with Mark Cronquist Motors, and Mark built some stout engines that always run well here at Daytona. And prime example. And by the way, the last time we left Eric Almirola, he was sliding on his roof upside down during testing. Remember that? He was down here in testing, and the last lap he ran, he was sliding upside down. Cued the radio and said, "Guys, I'll be okay when I stop sliding."
They must have slickened that body up when they turned it upside down, because he's put it on the pole here today.
Yes, he did. And how about this guy here? Two-time NASCAR Nextel Cup Series champion, the Rushville Rocket, they've called him. Tony Stewart, 35 years of age. He has won the last 2 consecutive NASCAR Busch Series events here at Daytona. And guess what, guys? 2 weeks ago Sunday, he text messaged one of his Indiana buddies, one Peyton Manning, and said, "Congratulations on your Super Bowl win with the Indianapolis Colts. You finally realized your dream, and I hope that 2 weeks from today, I'll realize my dream by winning the Daytona 500. He believes that karma is his after the kind of week he's having.
He's having a great week so far. Momentum takes you a long way in this sport.
I'll tell you, win the Bud Shootout, win the 150-mile qualifying races. I don't know why in the world he couldn't win the Daytona 500. In fact, there's a couple of us up here might have picked him to win the 500. He's, if you look back at his record, Jerry, you're talking a lot of top 5s for Tony here at this speedway. It's been really good to him. So it doesn't really surprise me that Joe Gibbs Racing with Eric Almirola is on the pole right now, because they have brought some incredible cars down here to compete at the Daytona week.
Tony Stewart has 11 Daytona wins. They nicknamed him Mr. Saturday because he's never won the Daytona 500. He's won the Bud Shootout 3 times. Again, this year he won it. He's won 2 duels. He's won 3 times in the Daytona 300, and he is not looking like he's going to be quick enough to be up toward the front as he flashes by. And Tony Stewart, well, that's about where he started. He's a little bit further back than he started a year ago when he won the race. 180.701 miles per hour, 49.806 seconds, and a disappointing qualifying run in terms of where he thought he would be. And speaking of the pole sitter, let's check in with Mike Massaro.
Well, Doc, this morning the Joe Gibbs Racing team was hoping that Eric Almirola would crack the 48-second mark. You did, but just barely. 48.98. What'd you think of that lap?
It's a really good lap. I think that just really shows how hard all these guys at Joe Gibbs Racing and on this Banquet team worked over the winter. You know, they put a lot of hard work into these speedway cars. That's what they work for all winters, to try to get their Daytona cars ready, and it shows today. You know, it's an awesome race car and really, really fast, and just really proud of all my guys. You know, as a driver, you really don't do a whole lot here. It's just mainly cars, so it's pretty impressive on all those guys' part.
Jerry Punch just mentioned how in testing you ended up on your roof. Did that experience experience give you new respect for this place?
Oh, it definitely did, you know. Never been on my roof before in a stock car, so pretty interesting. And, you know, I think real fortunate that it happened in our backup car and not our primary car, because our primary car was really good down here in testing. And, you know, I think these guys have a lot to look forward to when 20 goes to go out and qualify.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Guys?
Nice young man, Eric Almirola, and driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. And the plans were for him to run 8 races this year, for that car actually to be shared by others in that stable. In fact, they had planned to have 4 different drivers. Tony Stewart being one of them. He would drive 3 races. Brad Coleman and Kevin Conway would also drive the 18 car.
All right, the 38 car, Jason Leffler out there right now. This is, I'll tell you what, if he runs anything like Andretti did, this guy's probably going to get the pole. And the one we got to wait for, Denny Hamlin goes dead last in that Joe Gibbs car, so he might get the pole too. We have to wait really long to see what happens there, but this is probably going to be your strongest Toyota in the field right here coming by.
Looks like the wind's died down a little bit. I know the crew chiefs are watching that, and this is one of the strongest Toyotas.
We welcome those of you joining us on ESPN. We are live at the World Center of Racing at Daytona International Speedway with live NASCAR Busch Series qualifying for the season opener on this 2007 season. Right now, one of the favorites for the pole, yes, it is a Toyota. He is on a pole run. That is Jason Leffler, the Todd Braun Motorsports team. And the car to beat right now for the pole is Eric Almirola, who is driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. The Washington Redskins head coach owns that team that's on the pole. But can Leffler beat him as they flash by? Not quite enough. Very close to 183.587 miles per hour, 49.023 seconds. So we have a Chevrolet on the pole, Almirola, then a Leffler in a Toyota, and then another Chevrolet Truex, and then John Andretti down there with another Toyota. So great qualifying efforts.
70 degrees out there, Jerry. That's the coolest it's been all day long, so that's helped the performance just a little bit. But this doesn't surprise us at all. A 49.02 compared to the pole run of a 48.98 compared to Eric Almirola. But, you know, you could see this one coming, Andy. I mean, we talked about this Toyota driver for a long time and how Toyota's really happy with that Busch Grand National engine they brought down here. It's the same engine they're running in the Truck Series, maybe a little bit different in some things, but they're much happier with this engine than they are in their Cup effort for the Daytona 500.
Yeah, this was the one that they were looking for. This is the bullet in their gun for Toyota, and he came really close. I know that they're real happy with that lap, but just missing that pole.
I'm Jerry Punch, by the way, and the voices you are hearing are our championship analyst team, former NASCAR Cup Series champion Rusty Wallace, and 2-time championship crew chief for Dale Earnhardt Sr., Andy Petrie. There's a look at this beautiful complex, 480 acres, Daytona International Speedway. As we will head down to our pit studio and our host, Brent Musberger.
Jerry, thank you very much. It has been chilly here today, and we will show you some of the hot times. John Andretti, he's the son of Mario Andretti's twin brother Aldo. He sits in 4th, and a big story has been the Toyotas. And then, of course, Martin Truex. He held the pole position for much of the afternoon. And Eric Almirola, he also came and captured it. Jason Leffler and another Toyota was red hot here today. Tim, we look at the speeds that they've been turning in, and it's fascinating. You have said, as we watch our pole sitter, that it has been the wind that has altered the times here today.
I tell you what, you know, every time that flag changes directions up there, it gives you an opportunity to gain some speed, or it'll drop you like a hot potato. And that backstretch speed just getting down through there in a good lap, I mean, it magnified itself. But right now you got 7 cars sitting there right now within 900 of a second. That's awesome for Daytona.
And Jerry, Almirola's car, Joe Gibbs Racing, that you have been talking about, he won the pole at all the restrictor plate races last year. So that is one fast car as we go back to Jerry.
Indeed they do, and this is one of the guys here, Brent, that may have a shot at him. This is the reigning series champion. In fact, he is a two-time NASCAR Busch Series champion, and Kevin Harvick, 31 years of age, from Bakersfield, California. He dominated this series a year ago, winning 9 times, and set a record by winning the championship in the largest margin in history, 824 points over Carl Edwards. He also set records for the most top 10 finishes. This guy finished in the top 10 32 times in 35 races.
Well, we don't know how he's going to qualify quite yet, but one thing we do know, he's going to be in the hunt when it comes race time tomorrow. He's the type of guy doesn't really care where he qualifies. He just wants a great handling car, and those are the things that come out of Harvick. He really works good with his team, getting this car handling, because he's always good at Daytona.
And Andy Petrie, Harvick back in 21st in the 21 car, the AutoZone Chevy. And 49.55, the best he could do here in qualifying efforts.
Yeah, but he's not concerned about that at all. Defending champion guaranteed in the race. He doesn't care anything about qualifying. He said a while ago, just post up a time and then line him up on Saturday. He'll be ready on Saturday.
He will run a limited schedule this year in the NASCAR Busch Series and trying to go after that coveted Nextel Cup title. There is the current pole sitter, the youngster Eric Almirola, driving for Joe Gibbs. Back in a moment.
Well, I've been coming to Daytona my whole life, since I was a little kid. The town's really, really cool. Palm trees everywhere, sunshine.
It's just great to be on the beach. Everybody goes out to the clubs at night.
The energy is, I think, really hardcore in this town.
Daytona is known for the ocean deck. It's right on the beach. A lot of racers go there. It's got a lot of history to it. Just great feeling being here with all your racing buddies and kind of hanging out and having a good time.
Just the part of the color and pageantry that is Daytona Beach, Florida. And how about a little live water skiing? It is a clear but crisp day down there. And this is in 29-acre Lake Lloyd. Nice jump, guys. I'll give that a 10.5. And good effort by these three. And they're water skiing out here, and it is getting quite chilly here. They expected temperatures of 30 degrees, but during qualifying, there is the 29-acre Lake Lloyd that lines the back straightaway. You see the car coming down to your left. It's qualifying on that lap as those guys and young ladies are out there water skiing, enjoying the afternoon.
Jerry, I can promise you, if that was me in the center right there trying to water ski like that, and he did that flip, I'd get tangled up and drown right there.
Oh, wow.
That's where
yeah. Get up.
That's where I'd go down, right there.
Oh, great effort. There's a show everywhere you look here at Daytona International Speedway, including back on the racetrack for the 29 car. As the Holiday Inn machine, one of the Richard Childress cars, with Scott Wimmer out to attempt his qualifying efforts. Meanwhile, let's check in back with last year's winner of the race. Alan?
The Tony Stewart did not qualify what will turn out to be very well. What happened on your qualifying lap? What did you think of the time?
I didn't know what I'd run. We never even did a mock qualifying run yesterday. We were a little cool on temperature, so we probably could have got a little more speed out of it from that standpoint. But I haven't got a paycheck from qualifying here yet, but we've won the last 2 years, so qualifying's not that important. It's just your pit spot, basically, and if this car drives as good as we got it to late yesterday morning, it'll be just fine.
Late yesterday morning, so you feel like you made a lot of progress because you struggled in practice to get the car like you wanted it.
Yeah, I mean, the handling's good. We just were struggling with speed, but these guys in this Old Spice car are doing a great job, and Kevin Delana, it's a whole new crew than what I dealt with last year for the most part, except for 2 or 3 guys. So it's been fun learning a new group of guys, but they're all great. So just looking forward to it. I think we're going to have a good day again tomorrow.
Thanks, Tony. He's won everything in Speed Week so far, Jerry.
And he's exactly right, Alan. This race, $2.5 million plus purse, and that's where he wants to be the guy up front there when it's over. Scott Wimmer driving for Richard Childress Racing in the 29 car, the same car he will share with Jeff Burton throughout the year.
We bumped 2 cars. Brad Keselowski, we saw in that one little shot. He's bumped out. J.J. Yaley, big name. He's bumped out of the field right now. So real important for these guys to run fast and get in.
And again, the bumping process is associated with the fact that those drivers who are not locked in by being a part of the top 30 in owners points a year ago and didn't have enough speed will not be in the starting field. And that's important because J.J. Yaley was the pole sitter at both Daytona Busch Series events a year ago. Scott Wimmer clocks in at 181.021 miles per hour, 49.718 seconds. And that will put him in 27th position. So a lot of very interested people here watching the NASCAR Busch Series cars. Chip Ganassi and Felix Savadas, they're watching the cars qualify. course, Chip Ganassi, his cars won the Rolex 24 back to begin Speed Weeks 2007. And one of the drivers in that winning car was Juan Pablo Montoya.
Yeah, I started to say just about the time you're getting ready to get up and grab a beer or something. Don't leave, folks, because Juan Pablo Montoya is coming out right now. And here's the guy that we're all looking for. He's had a good practice running this car, and Ganassi has really put some good Busch efforts together.
You see both the owners standing down there. They're pretty excited about this run. I've got a short list of guys that I have for favorites for the pole, and this man's on it.
Juan Pablo Montoya, international superstar. He spent years in Formula One, 5 years there, driving for Williams BMW and McLaren Mercedes. He produced a pole, 7 wins, and 30 podium finishes, including the highlight of his career, the win in the premier event, the Grand Prix of Monaco. Yes, he is the same Juan Pablo Montoya that drove Chip Ganassi's car to the 2000 Indianapolis 500 victory and set a rookie record by leading 167 of 200 laps in Indianapolis. And I was there with our ESPN ABC coverage that they won an impressive performance by Juan Pablo. And by the way, a year before as a rookie, he won the Kart Series title. So everywhere this young man has been, he has been almost an instant success.
Well, Jerry, right now it's cooling down a couple more degrees yet. We just got word it's 68 degrees now. It's the coolest it's been all day long. I'm not really concerned about the way the cars are handled, but I believe it's going to make the motors run better.
That 68 degrees is the track temp coming down, and we know the air temperature is coming down also with the sun getting down in the sky. Waiting on his first lap from Juan Pablo.
And 180.679 miles per hour, so he is 30th quickest. That, of course, is Brad Parrott, the younger brother of Todd Parrott. Brad, who was the Busch Series crew chief a year ago and helped Casey Mears pick up a win at Chicago Speedway, driving for Chip Ganassi and Felix Sabates.
You never know what Brad's got up his sleeve. That's why I always keep an eye on this car. I'll tell you, he's a very competitive crew chief and always has a fast car.
On Thursday here in the dual events, this driver, Juan Pablo Montoya, led the first 22 laps of the dual race that was eventually won by Jeff Gordon, of course, and then later changed after post-race inspection. But what an impressive performance by Juan Pablo in the Cup car.
Well, we know he can get the job done. He looked really good in the 150s. And the way it looked right now, a speed of a 49.81 second lap the first lap. I don't think he'll get maybe top 6, top 7 right here. Let's take a look. 10th quick, Juan Pablo Montoya. Good run for him, Jerry.
And he is the fastest rookie now in the field at 182.893 miles per hour. Juan Pablo Montoya comes from Formula One to Daytona and will have double-header action running the NASCAR Busch Series and Nextel Cup races here on the weekend. He is 10th quickest, and our current pole sitter driving for the coach, Joe Gibbs Racing. That's Eric Almirola. He's the guy to beat at over 183.7. And we welcome you back to Daytona International Speedway, the World Center of Racing. NASCAR Busch Series qualifying underway. That is Paul Menard, one of the 3 Dale Earnhardt Incorporated cars here. And Menard clocking in at 183.061 miles per hour, 49.164 seconds. That will put him 9th quickest on the charts. And he is the Martin Truex car, also out of the Dale Earnhardt stable, is 3rd quickest, and he would be 9th. And Dale Earnhardt Jr. is 13th, so 3rd, 9th, and 13th, the 3 DEI cars. As we check in down with Jamie Little, who's standing by with another contender.
That's right, the number 9 of Casey Kane. We're just talking about the Busch Series. You know, he didn't run any Busch races last year, but Casey, you're doing it here in Daytona. What brought you back?
It's just a good sponsor, good car. You know, Ray Evernham gives us a nice opportunity to try to win Busch races in this Hellman's Dodge Charger. So look forward to it. Look forward to running 18 races this year and, you know, get started tomorrow. It should be a fun race. It's always pretty cool at Daytona.
You know, talking to a lot of you drivers, you talk about the Busch Series, and you guys like to come over here because you're having fun, because these cars are a little different than the Cup car. Tell me about that.
Well, the package at Daytona is definitely different. The way that you suck up, and you have just some more things that slow you down, so it creates a bigger hole behind your car, and it gives you, you know, you can draft up to the car in front of you a little bit easier. So I think everybody enjoys that, and then other tracks, it's just getting in a good car and racing and trying to win races. That's what we all want to do, is win.
All right, Casey Kane makes his return to the Busch Series, guys, in the 9 car.
All right, Casey winning 6 times last year. He was the winningest driver in NASCAR's Nextel Cup Series division, getting back in the 9 car. And
Yeah, that's Sammy Johns you see on the cell phone over there talking to right beside Casey Kane. He's one of the last men standing in the hierarchy of the Evernham Motorsports guys. A lot of these other guys getting suspended from infractions in the Cup garage. You have to wonder if that's some kind of a distraction for him, having some of these guys gone and him having to play a bigger role in this organization.
Certainly a test of the Evernham Motorsports depth there, as the news early in the week had these guys having some suspensions. We'll touch on that momentarily. But how about we ride along with Mike Wallace, who has got one of the best records of any driver at this racetrack. There is the Geico Chevy Monte Carlo, the first of 3 years with Mike Wallace, and high-definition onboard camera watching Mike as he makes his qualifying run.
You know, watching high def from the in-car camera is something I've never seen in my life before. This year with ESPN, that's just an incredible look to see the clarity of that. You can really follow along with the driver real well. Just look at the bumps in the track. You can even see the shade in the track. Tell you what, folks, if you don't have a high-definition television yet, you better go get one now. Because ESPN, every single race, all the in-car cameras.
Never been done before, and wow, you'll be able to see everything. I mean, on the racetrack, on the wall, in the infield, wherever that camera points, it's going to have incredible clarity here, and he'll be riding along throughout the race with Mike and his Geico machine. Mike, by the way, has won 3 different times at Daytona. He won the ARCA race here in '94. He won the NASCAR Craftsman Trucks event here in 2000, and his last Busch Series event actually came here. He won in July of 2004 at Daytona. And Mike Wallace will complete his lap at 181.653 miles per hour, which puts him 24th on the chart, 49.545 seconds. His first time out here with the new 7 car.
He's a restrictor plate wheel man. I've had him in my cars before, and I tell you, you better watch for him on Saturday.
All right, we told you that there was a very impressive rookie crop here in 2007, and the fastest rookie thus far in the field is standing by with Alan Bestwick.
And that would be Juan Pablo Montoya, who described his qualifying lap to me a second ago as
disappointing. You know, it's a shame, you know. Texas Howling Dodge car run yesterday is so good. You know, we ran a flat yesterday easily, so we were pretty optimistic about today. Just, I don't know if it's the wind, the weather, whatever. It just didn't run as strong as it did yesterday, but I think it'll be fine in the race.
Jumping back and forth between the 2 garages is somewhat of a new experience for you, doing this much practicing and this much qualifying in cars with different configurations. What's that been like to adjust to?
Here it's easy, you know. Here anybody can do it, you know. The hard thing will be, you know, in all the tracks when, like when I did Homestead, one car was tight, the other one was loose, so it's really hard, you know. You go from one car that is doing one thing and you get the hang of it, and then you go to the other one that does the other thing. So, you know, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing yet.
Good luck tomorrow. Juan Pablo Montoya disappointed with 10th so far, but he's got a race to run tomorrow.
Thank you, Alan. We told you about the impressive rookie crop. Take a look there. We've already seen how David Reagan is going to be a factor. Sam Hornish Jr., former Indy 500 winner this year, reigning in. Juan Pablo Montoya won the Indy 500 back in 2000. Marcus Ambrose, who is one of the premier stock car drivers from Australia. They call him the Jeff Gordon of Australia. He's that good down there, down under. Coming over to run as a rookie this year in the NASCAR Busch Series.
Justin Derricks is the last car to get bumped. We've bumped out 3 cars so far. The next car on the bubble is David Stremme.
Well, speaking of drivers who were impressive rookies, Kyle Busch, who was the 2005 Nextel Cup Series Rookie of the Year, and he was a runner-up in the Busch Series standings in 2004 here at Martin Truex. We are told by Kyle, he was telling me, he said, we're planning on running 20 to 22 races. However, if I do pretty well in the first 5 or 6, I may go back to Rick Hendrick, who's his car owner, and say, hey, Rick, let me go after this thing. Let me run all of them. So we'll see what happens early on.
Well, here's another car out of one of the super teams, Rick Hendrick's organization right now. They just told me, Jerry, this is the coldest the track has been all day long. The ambient air temperature, everything. The sun's really coming down. And the speeds, you know, they don't move as much as you would see at another racetrack like California or Martinsville, any track where track temperature makes a big difference. But it is something. It's a little bit. And if anything, it's favoring Kyle Busch right now. Like I said, Rick Hendrick, but you saw Jeff Gordon won the race the other day in one of those engines. Let's see what Kyle Busch has got under the hood of this thing. 8th quick right now. Good run for him, a 49.15 second lap. That's a good solid run. We know this kid can draft and he'll be strong tomorrow.
You know what I'm excited about is you got some really good cars up front, but then also you got Earnhardt and Tony Stewart and Mike Wallace and all these guys toward the back of the pack, and I think this is going to be one heck of a race here for 300 miles on Saturday. How about Casey Mears? My goodness, what a weekend he's had here thus far. And how about another Casey? We got a case of Casey's getting ready to go out on pit road. When we come back, Busch Series qualifying continues. And back at Daytona International Speedway, pretty good qualifying effort by a 20-year-old second-year driver out of Asheville, North Carolina, Stephen Light, driving for Robert Yates Racing. And he is currently 7th overall.
That's a good 6/10 of a second pickup. Pretty standard for what we've seen all day long. Nothing stupid about this qualifying run. That's a good run, good solid run. We thought he might be a little better based on how strong these Yates engines have been, but hey, good run for this guy.
Well, these beautiful aerial shots of Daytona International Speedway being brought to you courtesy of the fine folks at Goodyear Tires, featuring triple tread technology. Great aerial coverage of this 500-acre complex. There's the 29-acre Lake Lloyd where they were water skiing moments ago back there during qualifying. And how about the track conditions right now? We were told the temperatures are going to take a significant nosedive here tonight, and the track temperature is definitely coming down.
Well, it's started 18 degrees cooler right now than it was when we started. The wind's been pretty flat. It's been varying around about 9 to 6 miles per hour. We've seen this move around. We're showing you right now 6 miles per hour to start, 5 miles per hour right now. But look at that air temperature, guys. Pretty flat throughout the day, so not much of a big advantage for anybody. But, you know, if you go to a different track, like I talked earlier, hey, Andy, this track temperature is everything at a track we go to, like next week at California, Las Vegas, places like that. That's what these crew chiefs look at.
You know, one of the questions I had when we began qualifying today was, how about one of the quickest cars yesterday in practice, which was Robbie Gordon, but he had the car heavily damaged, and they worked all night to get it back together. Is he going to be a player, and is the car back together? Well, why don't we find out, Jamie Little?
That's right, and he turned that fastest time 1 lap before he got in that accident. And Robbie, you were one of the few guys here that didn't have a backup car. Your team worked tireless hours. How did they get it back together, and how confident are you going out right now?
I'm a little nervous. I think the time we need to run is about a 40, and I think that's about the fastest we ran by ourselves yesterday. So hopefully we got it back straight. I know the guys worked really hard on it. They flew down. Troy Fliss loaned us his facility to work out of, which was pretty cool, right down the street here in Daytona. I drove for him a couple years ago in the 24-hour, and it was nice to have that shop to work out of, because without that we wouldn't have been able to get this Motorola car even an opportunity to qualify. And I think we got a good shot at it. I know we could run the time. We were third quickest in practice yesterday. Unfortunately, I think the 23 ran out of fuel or something in front of us.
How many hours did it take for them to repair this car last night?
It was an all-nighter for them. I think they finished at 6 a.m. But these guys are warriors. You know, they go out and they fight and they make it happen. So got a great group of guys working for us this year, and got some great sponsors. Really going to try hard to get the Motorola Verizon car into the field.
I know a lot of people are saying Robbie Gordon is a warrior, so get out there and good luck to you.
All right, thank you, Jamie.
All right, Robbie Gordon, guys.
And Jamie, Ed Buffington and those guys worked until 6:30 this morning. There were 8 of them, and they got 2 hours sleep prior to coming here and trying to work now throughout the day to get that car in line for qualifying.
Looks like they've done a good job of getting it fixed, too, so he may have a shot. And if he got any sympathy from the inspectors going through inspection, maybe he'll have a little advantage there, too.
All right, here is Kyle Krisiloff. Yeah, he is the son of the famous Steve Krisiloff, 13-time Indy 500 starter, and the grandson of Mary George, yes, of the Holman George family. Good qualifying effort for Kyle. Back at Daytona International Speedway, qualifying continue. The final cars here for the NASCAR Busch Series. That is the 3M's car number 16, one of the Roush cars for Todd Cleaver, and he will line up in 15th spot thus far in qualifying at 182.819 miles per hour, 49.229 seconds. Now, if you've missed our qualifying coverage, want to know who's at the top of the pile or the top of the pylon, we'll show you exactly how they line up. Two-time series champion Martin Truex in the number 11 car out of Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, currently 3rd quickest overall at 183.419 miles per hour as he clocked in early in qualifying. How about a Toyota Camry? Great qualifying effort for Jason Leffler, who is currently on the outside of row 1, driving for Braun Motorsports. And the one they're chasing, yeah, it's Coach Gibbs's car. The Washington Redskin head coach Joe Gibbs owns the Banquet Chevrolet. And Eric Almirola making its first ever start in a NASCAR Busch Series race here at Daytona, could possibly put it on the pole. That's where they sit right now in qualifying. Almirola, Leffler, Truex, John Andretti, and Carl Edwards in the top 5. As we get set for another NASCAR Cup Series driver who will be racing on Saturday and Sunday. Here is Casey Kane headed out to qualify.
Here's another guy just can't get enough driving. He likes racing everything, Jerry. He's been out running around, running short tracks, been running sprint cars, midget cars, everything, and now he's decided he's going to get back in Busch, run a little bit more Busch races with Ray Abraham. Like you heard him earlier, he said, I just like to race, man. I just want whatever it takes, put me in there.
And we remember now there are 48 cars here. It is a 43-car starting field, so 5 cars will not be here. And they will have to go home. We've already had some bumping, Andy.
Yeah, we've knocked out one heavy hitter in J.J. Yaley. And David Stremme, another Nextel Cup driver, is the next one to be bumped. Casey Kane won't bump him because he's a guaranteed spot. But after Casey's run, we got 2 guys, 2 Cup drivers that are coming up. And we got 1 Cup driver and 1 Indy 500 winner that are there on the bubble. So it's going to be exciting right to the end. If you want to know how competitive this series is, just look at that right there.
There is Mike Shiplett, the crew chief of this Evernham Motorsports machine. Mark McCardle, the engine builder, former Ilmore engine builder, now working for Ray Evernham. And this Casey Kane was the winningest driver in Cup Series a year ago, won 6 times in the Nextel Cup machine. Also had 6 poles. Former Rookie of the Year in the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series back in 2004.
Well, this could be a pretty good run for him. It's not the run he's really looking for right now. He's running about 20th, 21st. He's looking. His first lap was about 3 or 4 tenths off of what I thought it should have been. But you know, it's another guy that's just got to keep this car handling, and this car is something that's already in the field.
Yeah, he's already locked in. He's not worried about making a real fast lap. He's not a pole shot, so he just elected to get his car driving really good for the race, get him a starting spot outside of the 13th row.
And again, by being locked in, we're referring to the fact that the top 30 in owners' points from the year before are guaranteed a starting spot. That's the NASCAR rules. It's the top 35 in NASCAR Nextel Cup. It's the top 30 in the NASCAR Busch Series. So you take those 30 plus 1 past champion, and there are 7 former past champions trying to qualify here. And that means there's only 12 spots available, and 5 guys are going to go home not making the race. More in just a moment.
This copyrighted telecast may not be reproduced, retransmitted, or used in any form without the authorized written consent of NASCAR Broadcasting. NASCAR would like to thank all of our loyal fans for your continued support, and we hope you enjoyed today's broadcast.
Welcome back to Daytona Beach, Florida, Daytona International Speedway, the site of the NASCAR Busch Series qualifying. The final cars getting ready to go out, and it's going to get very interesting from here on out to the end because you only have 43 cars in the starting field, and the field is full, which means whenever a car qualifies, it is going to bump someone out. This is Casey Mears, who has just clocked in Andy Petrie at 181.496 miles per hour, and that puts him 30th on the starting grid.
The most important thing he did right there was bump David Stremme out of the field. He bumped his way into the field and David Stremme out. But what we got here, though, is he's the man on the bubble. He didn't get up there as far as he wanted to get. This is his 3rd car on the weekend. And I talked to Chad Walters. They got this car from the 5 Busch car team, and it was their car they tested here. They were expecting this car to run a lot faster than this. They're in the field, but they're on the bubble.
The crew worked until 8 o'clock last night. They allowed them to come in. NASCAR allowed them to come in at 6:30 this morning, and they were working diligently to get this car, which had, as you said, had been a backup car for Kyle Busch, out. Had to peel off all the vinyl decals. Everything was gone. There wasn't any number or National Guard. Nothing on that car. Had to go through inspection. Had to be decaled and prepped. Change the seat to get him out there. And it was a yeoman's effort by Chad Walter and the entire Hendrick crew to get him on the racetrack. Speaking of efforts, you just heard us talk a moment ago about Robbie Gordon and how the work went on in this car until 6:30 this morning. Then it had to be brought back to the racetrack.
What he's got to do, he's got to beat Casey Mears at 181.496. That's the speed he has to beat to get in the field. One thing to note here is Sam Hornish was locked in by Casey Mears bumping out David Stremme on that last lap, putting himself on the bubble, and that locked in Sam Hornish.
Well, the reigning Indy 500 winner will be in the NASCAR Busch Series race with Roger Penske's first ever restrictor plate effort on a super speedway.
You know, I don't think that Penske has ever missed a Busch Grand National race. He's never been in the points where he's been locked in, but every time they brought these cars out and tried to get in, they've always locked themselves in. It's good effort with the Penske team to do something like this. Sam Horner's got to be breathing a sigh of relief on that one right now.
And Robbie Gordon, remember, he has the Roush Yates engines, which have been so stout in qualifying. Dave?
Once they got the right side of that car smoothed out, the crew told me they put the hood down and it didn't fit because the right front fender had gotten tweaked just a little bit. They had to push the metal out just to get it to move about an inch to the right as you're sitting in the driver's seat. And when they did that, they had to move it a whole foot. You know how you bend metal and it doesn't bend unless you bend it too far? And they had to move it a whole foot just to move it an inch. And they thought the thing was going to fall apart when they moved that right front over. But they got it back together, and that was one of the final things they did this morning.
Looks like we had a player there for a minute, and he looked like he might have a shot at the pole. Robbie Gordon going into turn 3. He's just a 1/10 and a half off the pole. This is going to be a great run for Robbie. I know his guys are going to be pumped up after that night they spent working on this car. This is a great run. Greg Irwin right there got a smile on his face. I know he wants to smile anyway. He will once he comes across the line.
No better way to make those guys feel good about it, working all night with no sleep, than to put this car toward the front. 13th quickest, so you should be smiling, Greg. All the crew down there, Ed Buffington and company, for Robbie Gordon in the top 15 after working all night to fix the right side of this car in a borrowed shop just a few miles up the street here from Daytona, and then get back till 7 o'clock this morning. Slept an hour, and they got this car ready, and now Robbie goes out and just mashes the throttle and puts it in the field in the top 15.
Now, we noted earlier, this got a Yates engine in this Fusion of Robbie Gordon. Boy, it really paid off. He's really, in fact, he beat 2 or 3 of the regular Roush guys out. David Reagan, 15th right now. Todd Culliver, 16th. And Robbie's up to 13th. So this is a great run for what they've done. I mean, talk about a story, like you said, Jerry. Lay up all night long, put this thing together. Great comeback for him. He went from thinking, hey, I'm going to go home and not in the race, to a great qualifying run.
Oh, that's a great job of those guys. And I know how hard it is to work an all-nighter. I've done a few of them in my career. And I'll tell you, they're really, really happy right now.
Well, as you watch this car slowing down, it has not been a slow week here at Daytona in terms of inspection areas, particularly over in the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series garage area. And Andy Petrie, they had 4 drivers initially handed out with suspensions and fines, and 3 of those were from the Evernham Motorsports team. And, of course, the big one coming down for Michael Waltrip's Toyota. I mean, boy, the inspection is really, you've been there, you've lived it. It's really intense in Cup Series and Busch.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't miss, being in that garage area this week. Those guys in that Nextel Cup garage are all nervous, and a lot of them getting caught and suspensions being slung everywhere. But these Busch guys must have got the message, because the inspection process over in the Busch Series has been really smooth. They haven't seen anybody get caught with anything. Everything's just rolling right through there. So I think the message extended past the Nextel Cup garage and all the way over to the Busch garage, too.
Well, right now, all the last 3 cars qualifying, the 47 car of John Wood and the rest of them, they're all locked in the field, so we don't have to worry about bumping process or nothing like that. And the 47 car would just another car with a Yates engine in it, good strong motor in this car too. So we'll see how he does, Andy.
Yeah, this is Scott Zippindelli right here. This is Greg Zippindelli's brother. This is his first shot as a crew chief. He's been working with these other teams on these other Cup teams, and now he gets his shot as being a crew chief. And I know he's really excited about getting started this year with John Wood.
As you watch John Wood now try to put the car on the front row. Again, he was the fastest car in the opening practice session here early in the week.
Well, looks like we might have a player, too. Great first lap, I'll tell you that. This is going to be a close one. We can see right here, he's really close. He's just barely out of it right now. Can get off turn 2. Get him a little wisp of wind.
One thing we're seeing right now, every single one of these Yates engines are a player for the pole. Every doggone motor they've brought down here so far, Andy, has been strong and up front.
And right here is where these guys are looking at the flags, just hoping they get the right wind coming off forward. He's trying to get every ounce out of that thing, putting it right on the yellow line. It's going to be close.
25-year-old John Wood, a 3rd generation from the Wood Brothers family. And the Wood Brothers JTG racing efforts, can he do it? 3rd quickest for John Wood at 183.531 miles per hour. But what an effort by the youngster out of Stewart, Virginia.
Well, Eric needs a smile right now because his teammate's coming up the very last car, Denny Hamlin, the team car to Amarola. And I'll tell you what, don't go away yet, guys, because stay attention. Dale Jr.'s car is coming out right now, and Denny Hamlin. Those are two guys we got to watch. They're going to be good out there.
Back at Daytona, getting ready to wind up with qualifying here for the NASCAR Busch Series, a season opening event coming your way. With our coverage from Daytona on Saturday starting at 12 noon. And here is the Denny Hamlin effort. We thought he might be a player for the pole given the fact that it is his teammate who currently sits on the pole, and Eric Almirola.
Yeah, I expected more out of him. A 49.21 out of Hamlin. I mean, that's a little over 2/10 slower than Eric. So that's something. Got Dale Jr.'s car coming out next. The owner of the car that he owns, the number 88 Navy car. See how that car runs. They were really happy with that down in testing. Remember that. A lot of work in that car.
Very tight field, though. You're talking about 2/10 between the top 16 cars. That's very competitive. Almost like you said, on like a short track, you see that kind of thing. Speedways, you expect a little more than that, but very tight qualifying.
You talk about what's going on right now, Andy. Look at this. You got Eric Amarillo in Chevrolet, Jason Leffler in a Toyota, and John Wood in a Ford. It's pretty diverse. I mean, that's kind of the way NASCAR wants it, isn't it?
They've done a good job leveling the playing field in the Busch Series and the Cup Series for that matter, but I know that they're happy Toyota being on the front row, depending on what the 88 car does right here. If they can stay on the front row, that would just, I'm sure, exceed their expectations for their Busch Series debut.
Well, Shane Huffman, the 33-year-old driver in this 88 car, the Navy colors on the car that's owned by Dale Earnhardt Jr. They have Richard Childress engines on board, Al Andreoli and all the folks over at RCR, putting a very stout power plant under Shane Huffman, who will run the entire season for the NASCAR Busch Series. Crew Chief Wes Ward. It's the same team that Wes and Shane Huffman that were so dominant in the Hooters Pro Cup a few years ago, when they just sort of dominated that series. There's a look at Eric Almirola, who is the current pole sitter, driving for Joe Gibbs Racing. Amazing how just what a difference a few weeks can make. The last lap he ran here in testing, folks, that young man, the pole sitter, was upside down and sliding down the back straightaway. And we were here for testing, and he cued the radio, and they said, "You okay?" And as he was sliding upside down, he said, "Guys, I'll be fine when we just stop sliding."
Now, you talked about the 88 car, Dale Earnhardt Jr., the one he owns, with Shane Huffman driving it, with the Richard Childress engine. You would think a Dale Earnhardt Jr. car would have a DEI engine in it, except you got a Childress engine.
Well, they've been running Childress engines. They did it all last year, too. And
maybe he gets a better deal.
They're happy with them.
Is it
I
cheaper?
don't know, maybe.
Must be getting a better deal, Jer. Who knows?
Well, that is another subject for Speed Weeks, as we mentioned early in the year. Dale Earnhardt Jr. trying to get ownership of DEI along with his stepmom Teresa. As we look at Shane Huffman.
I raced with Shane Huffman a little bit on some short tracks at Hickory, and his crew chief as well, Wes Ward. He was a racer too back in the day when we ran short tracks. So I've raced with both of these guys. They got high hopes for Shane Huffman. His ending of last year, he finished real strong at Phoenix and Homestead. I know they want to carry that momentum into 2007. They're in the field, but not where they want to be. That was 43rd quick.
And the flash cubes now are flying for this young man, Eric Almirola, in the driving the Banquet Chevrolet. He is the pole sitter, and now gets a big hug from J.D. Gibbs, who actually runs Joe Gibbs Racing. J.D. is the oldest son of Joe and Pat Gibbs. Let's check in now with Mike, who's standing by with the pole sitter. Mike?
Well, Jerry, some tense moments. Eric Almirola pacing back and forth, his arms crossed. Now you can relax. What was that like, the last few cars going out there?
It was pretty nerve-wracking, you know. You're just sitting down here so helpless, just watching the cars go around. So we really wanted it really bad. You know, this really means a lot to all the guys back at the shop. They prepared an awesome race car, and our motors are just phenomenal, and all the guys back at the fab shop, just really proud of them. You know, it says a lot about our race team, and just really proud of everybody at Joe Gibbs Racing, and thankful for the opportunities they give me. So got my second pole, and I'm excited I get to race this time.
Yeah, I was going to say, your first pole came in Milwaukee. You just qualified the car. You didn't race it. What's it going to be like for you to lead the field to the green on Saturday?
Yeah, it's going to be pretty awesome. You know, it's just really special to me. Growing up in in Tampa, Florida. Being here in Daytona Beach, not very far away, is just really special. You know, I've come over here to watch many races from the stands, so to come here and actually lead the Busch field to the green is going to be, you know, something really special, and I'll probably never forget it for the rest of my life.
I know you won't. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jerry, the car that Eric's driving is the very car that won all 3 restrictor plate poles in 2006.
And a great effort for Eric Almirola, who won the pole a year ago at Milwaukee, subbing for Denny Hamlin. And here are those that will not make it. Last year's pole sitter, can you imagine that? J.J. Yaley won the pole for both Busch Series events here at Daytona. Stremme, Keselowski, Casey Mears, Brad Teague, and Justin Dirks. Those 5 will head back, or those 6 will head home. Back in a moment. Well, the sun is setting on NASCAR's Busch Pole qualifying from here in Daytona, and the field is now set for the season opener, the 300-miler at Daytona on Saturday. Take a look at the starting field, and what a storybook ending for Eric Almirola driving for Joe Gibbs Racing, his Chevy on the pole. A Toyota on the outside front row for Jason Leffler, and a Ford third-generation driver for the Wood brothers, John Wood at 25 years of age. Two-time series champion Martin Truex is fourth. And take a look and see where your favorite driver is starting. Juan Pablo Montoya, a fast rookie driving for Chip Ganassi and Felix Sabates in the 42 car. Dale Earnhardt Jr. starting back in the pack in the 8 car in 19th spot. Former series champion Joe Nemechek is there. And you look at Casey Kane. Sam Hornish Jr. makes the field, the reigning Indy 500 champion for Roger Penske Racing, his first ever super speedway restrictor plate attempt. He will run 11 times this year and possibly have a shot at Rookie of the Year. Kevin Harvick, last year's series champion, is there. Mike Wallace, who's won it all here in ARCA and Truck and Busch, trying to do it again this year with the Geico colors. Casey Mears, what an effort that Hendrick crew did in a backup car. And Tony Stewart has won the last 2 in a row here. How exciting that could be to watch Tony come from the back of the pack. We check in down once again with Alan Bestwick.
Well, Jerry, 2 Toyotas in the top 5. Jason Leffler qualifying on the outside of the front row. Should we be surprised to see 2 Toyotas in the top 5?
I don't think so. You know, with their help with Braun Racing getting involved with Toyota and the, you know, TRD and everybody, we got some good horsepower under the hood and got a lot of help from them. So, you know, Braun being an established team, it's just really elevated our team to the next level. But got to thank everybody back at the shop, everybody from Great Clips. Obviously, it's a good place to start for a driver. Just get in, hold it wide open. But tomorrow the fun starts for me, and we're going to put the pedal to the metal and hang on and have some fun.
Yes or no answer, can a NASCAR Busch Series only team like yours win this race tomorrow?
Oh, absolutely, definitely. I mean, especially with the backing we have from Toyota. I mean, it's really helped our program, and guys are doing a great job. With the crew chief like Todd Lucy, anybody can win.
Nice job today. To Jamie Little.
Well, Alan, it's been a tough couple of days, few days for Casey Mears and the 24 team. And Casey, you guys just got word you have been bumped. What happened?
That's a good question. That's a good question. We probably really don't know. We'll have to look at the car and see where it was. The 5 car ran pretty good, and it was his backup car, so I'm a little bit surprised that it ran, you know, as far off as theirs. But, you know, these guys worked so hard for the last couple of days, and we just been through a lot and going through 3 cars and trying to get things sorted out. And that was the first time it was on the track, you know, so a lot of times if you can at least have one run, you can get an idea, you know, the direction that you need to go or some changes you might have to make. So as of right now, you know, we did the best we can. The guys worked all night long for a couple nights in a row, and you know, just we hate it for the National Guard, obviously, and the 53rd Infantry Brigade that we're supporting this weekend. And but I mean, we're there. We're going to work hard, and it's a kind of a new deal, putting everything together and getting it all done. So work as hard as we can. We got a lot of races to go get them this year.
Well, as we reported earlier, you were in Kyle Busch's backup car, but unfortunate day, not the way that Casey Mears wants to make his Hendrick Motorsports debut. Guys?
Well, a tough effort, but you cannot fault that Hendrick team for effort whatsoever. I mean, boy, they had to basically prepare 3 cars, and Casey came so very close. He was the 33rd quickest qualifier And guys, your thoughts on Eric Almirola and this impressive performance by the Joe Gibbs team?
Well, it was a great run for Eric, Jerry. You know, he's a rookie. He's got to remember that. He's going to start up front, but with all these veterans, this is going to be a pretty hairy race. A lot of guys concerned about how slick these cars are getting on the racetrack. A harder right side tire Goodyear's brought. So I think handling is going to be a big issue. And I think the times that you've seen, some of the guys didn't qualify as well. A guy like Kevin Harvick, you know, he's worked really hard at making that car drive right, not really run fast. I think those type of guys are the ones that are really going to shine and step it up and be competitive in this race.
And it's going to make for a great race. When you got guys like that starting in the back and they're coming up through the field, that's the kind of excitement I like. I like these good guys starting in the back.
All right, we invite you to join us Saturday at 12 noon Eastern time. We kick off our exclusive coverage of the NASCAR Busch Series here with 300 miles of racing action, 120 laps at Daytona International Speedway. A crowd will be jamming their way in to watch the NASCAR Busch Series, and we are just stoked about having what a great show. Remember, you got Tony Stewart, who won this race the last 2 years, coming from way in the back of the pack. For Rusty Wallace, Andy Petrie, and our entire crew, I'm Jerry Putz, once again congratulating 22-year-old Eric Almirola for being the pole sitter here. Coming up next on ESPN2, NASCAR Now. On ESPN, we head to Sports Center. So long, everyone, from Daytona International Speedway.